everybody. Welcome to our training today. So this is our Canvas Basics training. I'm glad you all could make it. I'm sure there's still some people filtering in. My name is Kyle Cooper. We'll do a little bit more introductions here in a minute, but I want to make sure everyone knows the format of our Zoom room today just before we get started. I think that's the first thing we need to take care of. So basically there's a Q&A answer box in the Zoom room that will enable you to ask questions throughout the session. And then as we go through the training, feel free to ask any questions. If you're asking a technical question about instruction, it may not get answered right away, but we're keeping our eye on it. And we'll go through a little bit more of the process here in just a minute. But let me go ahead and introduce myself so that you all know who I am and kind of where I'm coming from. So my name's Kyle Cooper. I've been a Canvas trainer for about 5+ years. I'm from Tooele, Utah. A little bit about me up there on the screen, but basically I love Canvas. I love software, and I really love learning, more importantly. I consider myself an educator first, and then kind of a techie second. So to me, it's all about what can we do for our students? How can we leverage the technology to really make an impact on our students? And hopefully that's what today's training is going to be all about for you. What can you do with your content, with your courses, to be able to make a better experience for your students? Whether that means, right now we're all online, right? So whether that means online or in the future, as you create a blended environment, you can really provide a lot of benefits to your students through using Canvas. I also included my LinkedIn profile. You don't need to pay too much attention to it, but if you want to stay connected after our session today, feel free to reach out. That's probably the best way to get a hold of me, to reach out that way. Anyway, let's get started and talk a little bit about what our session is going to be covering today. So for our agenda, there's basically four things we're going to be talking about today. We've got 3 hours of our session today, but so 4 things may not sound like a lot, but as we go through our session, one thing that you may want to be aware of is that the general format that we go about with this training is I'm going to be showing you some things in Canvas. I'm going to be giving you a little bit of instruction. We're going to try to keep it to anywhere from 15 to 20 minutes if we can. And then after that instruction, we're going to give you an opportunity to get into Canvas to try some things out for yourself. So we really want to give you an opportunity to dig in and see what Canvas looks like from your end, so that you have the ability to ask questions and become familiar with the system itself. So keep that in mind. So while we're only focusing on these 4 main concepts, we're really going to be diving deep into the tools from your end, and you'll have a great opportunity to ask questions, to be able to get a little bit more information from me, a Canvas trainer. And then on top of that, the session that we have today, it is being recorded. So if you do miss anything, I'm sure that we can get you that information a little bit later as we go through the session. So one thing that we want to make sure, and you'll see that there in the chat, I've got a few people supporting me today from your university, and Sapita is one of them. You'll notice that she's mentioning, make sure you have access to the system. Please do that now, because since we're doing some practice sessions today, you'll want to make sure that you can log in and that you're seeing enough of the content to be able to work in Canvas. If you're having any kind of access issues or problems, that's where the Q&A will be helpful. So anyway, that said, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about our agenda. So the first thing we're going to be talking about is navigating a Canvas course. Canvas courses are our base fundamental building piece in Canvas, and so you need to understand how they work, and we'll get further into that. Next, we'll talk about creating a homepage. So if a course is kind of the building block of your experience in Canvas, or of your students' experience in Canvas, the homepage is like the front door. So that's what students see first when they get into your course, and obviously we want them to have a good experience. So we're going to teach you not just the technical aspect of how you create a homepage, but also give you a few tips and tricks of things that you can do to really make your homepage stand out, so that it's going to be not only aesthetically pleasing, but also easy to use and be a benefit to your students. Next, we'll get into kind of more of the meat of the course, and we'll talk about how to organize their course content within Canvas. And then we'll get into the different types of Canvas content. Now, when we get to the different types of Canvas content, we're not going to dig super deep into any particular piece of content, but more so just give you an idea of what's available. And then as part of today, I also want you to walk away with some resources that will help you know where to go to learn more. Because the cool thing about Canvas, in fact, one of the reason why it's called Canvas is because it's a blank canvas. I've seen high school teachers use Canvas. I've seen college, university professors using Canvas. I've seen kindergarten teachers using Canvas. I've seen athletics coaches using Canvas, and they use it for different things. But because it's so flexible, all those different people can use Canvas to support their students in their own way. So that said, you're probably going to be finding ways to support your own students in Canvas, and you'll probably need to be doing a little bit of learning, because what I teach you today is just going to give you that foundational information. So that's kind of where we're going. But as far as the resources that we have today, first I want to make sure everyone knows about the webinar Q&A. You can jump in there and you can ask any questions you might need, and we'll try to support you through that. I don't think we'll get so overloaded we won't be able to answer all the questions. That hasn't been the case in the past, but if it does happen, one of the things we're going to make sure of is that we get all your questions answered. So there's going to be Q&A session at the end today, as well as intermittently throughout the training. And then even then, we're going to be sending out a summary and some information that kind of summarizes what we've talked about today. So we have our webinar Q&A. We also have our Canvas guides, which I will show you a little bit more of what that means in just a little bit. And then we have a resource doc, which let me share that resource doc with you really quick. Oh, sorry, I had it up and then I must have closed it. So let me grab it for you real quick. Sorry, should be there in just a moment. So on this resource doc, to give you an idea of why we have a resource doc and what it's going to be doing for you, it's basically a backup for anything that I teach you today. You'll be able to access this resource doc. And in fact, let me share a couple different things with you first. Okay, here we go. So the first thing I'm sharing here is a folder that has some resources we're going to be using. That first folder, hold on here. That first folder, so you should see it appear in the chat. That first folder that appears, that is going to be some resources we're going to be using throughout the session. And then one more link that I want to share with you. The second link that I'm sharing there is a link to a document that looks like this. So you'll notice that the items on here are basically the same as the agenda. And then within this document, you'll notice that if I click on, and there's even a little bit more, I included some information about our grade book, which we may or may not get to today. But a couple things about this resource doc. There's vocabulary. So I know some of the system terms I use today may be a little bit you may need to refresh yourself on those. So there's some vocabulary, there's video guides, and then there's individual guides with step-by-step instructions on how to do a lot of the things in Canvas. So you don't need to explore these resources now, but when we do some of the practice sessions and when we get into, after the session, you can definitely explore this document a little bit more and kind of see what's in here. These aren't all your resources. I just tried to curate some of the resources that are going to be more specific to, that are going to be a little bit more specific to this course in particular. So with that said, I want to make sure we're all in Canvas. I know I can't see you, but be sure to let us know in the questions in the Q&A. So somebody said, Charles, you said, I'm not receiving the emails with the links. They're in the chat in Zoom. So if you take a look at the chat in Zoom, you should be able to see those links. I don't think they're actual links. They're not able to copy the links. I'm hearing that you guys are not able to copy the links. I noticed some people are able to get into, you have to type it. Oh man, that's a nightmare. Why don't we do this? I don't know if Pauline, I don't know if you have the attendees' emails on there. We don't need to pull up those resource docs right now. I just want to make sure you have them in the next 10 to 15 minutes. So maybe we can have Pauline, go ahead and email those links to all of you so that you have those. Okay, we're going to be using them, but we don't need them right now, so we'll be okay. Rather than typing it, I'd like to have you have it in your email. All right. So let's go ahead and get started then getting into Canvas. So let's go ahead and get into Canvas here. I just want to make sure I'm in the right place. Switch over to Canvas, which looks like this. Now, the Canvas instance I'm working in today does not necessarily look the same as yours. It is not the exact same Canvas instance. This is my own instance that I'm going to be working in. But I do have your instance as well available, and I will be able to jump in there and troubleshoot anything that we have if there's any problems that come up. But for this instance, or for this case, we're really going to be looking at my particular instance of Canvas. Looks pretty much the same. There might be a few minor differences. If you have any questions about the differences, you can throw them in the chat and we'll be sure to jump in and ask about those. So, but when you first log into Canvas, this is what it will look like. Now, just a heads up, I'd encourage you, even though I want you logged into Canvas, you don't need to follow along step by step on your computer. Since we're going to be giving you those practice sessions, you won't necessarily need to, be doing things step by step. You'll have time to be able to jump in and try things out for yourself. But let's go ahead and get started talking about this navigation piece a little bit. So when you first log into Canvas, this is what you'll see. This is your Canvas dashboard. And on the front, you can see I have a couple courses. I've got one called Kyle's Sandbox, and I've got my sample course here. I'm going to be using both of those today. Today, we're actually going to create a new course. So you'll be able to create a new course in your own instance that you can use to practice for the sake of today's training. Over here on the left, we have what's called the global navigation menu. This is how you can navigate Canvas, and no matter where you go in Canvas, these options will always be available. Your particular icons may not be the same, like you may not have this admin shield, but for the most part, we have the same options here. I'm not going to go through the specific details on each of these options, like the calendar and the inbox. Those are just different tools in Canvas that you can use to communicate with students. While they're helpful, they're not necessarily that core fundamental piece that we're going to be getting into today. The one thing that I do want to make sure you're aware of is this help menu. Because in that help menu, you have the ability to access the Canvas guides. And your help menu actually will look just a little bit different. In fact, let's go ahead and pull up. Let's go ahead and pull up the your instance of Canvas really quick. And I'll show you what your help menu looks like. You should be able to see it on your own. But if you click on help here, you'll see up at the top, this little panda bear, he's saying search the Canvas guides. This is where we can get to the Canvas guides. Also, you can chat with Canvas support and you can call the Canvas support hotline. I know lately they've been pretty busy with this COVID-19 stuff. And so the wait times might be a little longer than usual. What I'm normally accustomed to is they will answer the phone within 1 to 2 minutes. And they're very good at that. They can help you out with anything that you need. That is 24/7 support. You guys have what's called Tier 1 support. That's the top level of support. Any of these other options in the help menu, while they can benefit you, I encourage you to kind of explore some of those things on your own. But otherwise, those are the major ones I wanted to bring to your attention. This search the Canvas guides, chat with Canvas support, and Canvas support hotline, because that's what you will most likely use, or that's what's going to be the most helpful to you throughout this learning process. All right. Okay, so it looks like, sorry, I'm just looking over some of my notes from our Zoom room. Okay, somebody's asking if we can zoom in so we can read the letters. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Why don't we zoom in a little bit? Is that, we'll make sure that our screen it's a little bit zoomed in, but I think that'll be better overall for all of us. Cool. So I'm going to take a quick look at the Q&A because I can see it's filling up and I don't want to miss anything. That'll be helpful for the email. You can't copy in the chat. Okay, so somebody mentioned, you know, you can't copy in the chat. We are getting the links out to you in either the calendar invite, it looks like, or through an email. So Pauline, I think, is taking care of that. Gabby or Pauline. So give us just a minute and we'll make sure you have those resource documents. Okay. Some people are asking where the Canvas is on our webpage. So what you'll want to do is if you go to this link right here, csufullerton.instructure.com, this will enable you to go to, this is going to be your Canvas webpage. As far as login support, if you need login support, throw that in the chat, or not the chat. I keep saying the chat, but what I mean is the Q&A. Go ahead and throw that in the Q&A. All right. And then Gabby's saying, okay, sorry, we're just working on getting you those email links. Okay, it looks like if you search for your email for the word Canvas, you can find a link. That's what Hoda D helped us out there with that answer. That should have your password. Okay. All right. So I think we're ready to kind of take these next few steps. We're going to go ahead and take the next few steps. If you do have any questions in the chat, keep kind of pushing them through. I am going to ask if you guys have comments. I know it is helpful. We love to have the feedback, but with it in the Q&A, it kind of fills up our Q&A. So it's harder to keep track of which questions are being asked. So let's maybe refrain from just making general comments in the Q&A if we can do that. Anyway, so now we're in our Canvas page, and I'm going to come back to mine over here. Let's zoom in on this one as well. So these are my Canvas courses, and to access a Canvas course, I just click on it, right? But we're going to create a new Canvas course for today. So over here on the left, you should see this Start a New Course. Now, the good news is you shouldn't need to actually create your own new courses for your actual students, meaning the courses you're going to deliver to actual students, those will be created for you by the university. But the reason why we're creating a course today is to give us a space to play in a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and click Start a New Course, and then I'm going to call it Kyle's Sandbox, or maybe Training Sandbox. That's where I play, is my training sandbox. And I'll just give it a short name of KTS. The other options, so these options right here, you can just leave them as the default. We don't need to worry about those options. Just basically make sure you have a course name in there. You can call it your name, Training Sandbox, and then give it a short name, and then hit Create Course. Once you do that, it's going to bring you into that Canvas course. So if you missed where that button was at, I'm going to go through that process one more time. On the dashboard, this Start a New Canvas course is right over here on the right. If you're on a smaller screen, it may be at the bottom, because what will happen is if you're on a smaller screen, if you're on a smaller screen, notice when your screen goes smaller, it shows up down here at the bottom. Okay, so be aware of that. I'd recommend making your screen as large as you can for the training, but if you're on a smaller screen, that button may be at the bottom. Once you create that sandbox, it will bring you into the course. And now I'm actually going to take a pause really quick. And we're going to talk about a Canvas course conceptually rather than dig into the details of the functions in Canvas, because sometimes it can really make a big difference to understand things conceptually. So I'm going to move over to my, I was going to use my my Zoom whiteboard, but it looks like we'll be using this blank white page. Let's talk for a minute a little bit about what a Canvas course is. So hypothetically, let's pretend that this box right here is my Canvas course. And what I mean by that is your university, if you're teaching in the physical world, your university will provide you with a classroom, okay? They're gonna give you a physical room. And that's just like with a Canvas course. They're gonna give you a Canvas course. They give you a space. But more than likely, you're gonna have to fill that space with content, with quizzes, with pages, with handouts, whatever it is that, you may need to provide to students to be able to teach them what they need to learn. And a Canvas course is not all that different, okay? In our Canvas course, we have all these different types of content. So we have like a box, for example, of pages, things like handouts, things like our syllabus, things that we're distributing to students. We also have a box that contains assignments, okay? We have a box that contains quizzes. Sorry, I'm not super good at drawing with my mouse. We have a box that contains things like discussions. Okay, so we have all these different boxes that contain different types of content. So we've got, you know, multiple pages. These little dots represent my different pieces of content. So I've got maybe a quiz in there and I've got a discussion. So I've got different pieces of content that I'm creating. But I want to kind of, let's talk hypothetically a little bit and talk about what it means to have this content in Canvas. And let's relate it to the physical classroom. If you were in the physical classroom, it's very similar in the sense that you have pages, you have your syllabus, you have assignments, you have these handouts, these things that you're going to distribute to students at some point. But would you ever, in the physical classroom, would you ever take all this content, would you ever take all this content and then provide it to your students? So let's say you have 30 students, so you make 30 copies of everything, make a box of each one, and then provide the box to each student and tell the students, hey, here's your box of content, here's your box of handouts. I want you to hang on to this for the next 12 weeks during our semester so that you can, I want you to hang on to this stuff for the next 12 weeks so that you can, when I say, hey, week 9, go pull out quiz number 9, and then go ahead and take the quiz. Would you ever provide your content in that format if you were teaching students in a physical classroom? Well, the answer is no, of course not. Instead, what you're going to do is you're going to distribute the quiz. You're going to go make copies on the day of, you know, week 9, and you're going to distribute the quiz on that day instead of trying to distribute everything all at once. And the reason why we do that is because if we were to try to provide all the copies of everything to all the students at the same time, it would be extremely frustrating, okay? It would be extremely challenging, and it would be overload for our students. But the sad part is we do the same thing sometimes to our students in Canvas. What we do is we put all our content into Canvas, and then it looks something like this. Okay, I'm going to take my drawing off for a minute, but it looks something like this. When they come into our Canvas course, it looks just like the cockpit of this plane. And there's so much going on, there's so much detail, there's so many gauges, so many buttons, so many whistles, that it's very frustrating for our students because we tell them, hey, go find assignment 1 or go find this assignment, that assignment. And they have a really hard time navigating the course. So the only reason I say all this before we even get into Canvas is because the things I'm going to teach you today is how can you avoid that confusion so that your students have a good experience. In other words, we're gonna, instead of having our course be one big box, we're gonna create an environment where over here on this side, we have our pages, and this is what our teacher sees. This is what our students see. Over here, we have our quizzes. So we still have all our content, Over here we have assignments. But then we're going to take these little pieces of content and we're going to give them to students periodically and organized. We're not just going to say, hey, here's all of our content, take all of it. The other thing we want to avoid is we don't want it to just be a big bath of content. We don't want it to look just like a textbook, because we want to create engagement. We want to facilitate that learning, and we can do that through Canvas. Okay, so I know we haven't jumped into the platform yet, but this gives us a little bit of an idea of why we're learning Canvas the way we're learning it today. Okay, when we go into our course, so now let's jump back to Canvas. When we go into our course and it looks like this, okay, when we go into our course and it looks like this, you can see over here on the side, this is what we call the course menu. Okay, this course menu, these are our boxes. So we talked about how in Canvas you have these different boxes. So this is a box that contains all of our pages. This is a box that contains all our modules, all of our quizzes, all of our outcomes. And I know that you don't know what all of these mean yet, but in concept, that's what these things are. So as we begin to navigate this course and try to explore this course, we're going to want to control what our students see and what they don't see, and which boxes they have access to and which ones they don't have access to, okay? So I'm gonna take, before we go on to the next step, I'm gonna take just a second to review our Q&A, because I can see that it's filling up a little bit. I appreciate our support team looking through those. I can share, so Hyun Chol, you said, can I use the blank website? I can certainly include that. I'm gonna leave your question unanswered and I'll come back to it later. I like the spotlight, okay, search for Canvas. How are you drawing on the page? There's a lot of questions about my presentation tools, which is okay. I will give you guys a full disclosure on the presentation tools in just a little bit. Search for Canvas link that they were emailed. Okay. So I think we answered most of the questions. If there's others who can't get into Canvas, because I noticed that some people are still commenting, you know, how to get to Canvas. If you're still having trouble, bring attention to yourself and say, I can't get in, okay? Because we want to make sure. Sorry,
can I pause for this? So you should all have received an email with 4 links. The first 2 links are the resource documents from Google Docs that Kyle shared. The third link is a project website, which has the current and future training sessions or workshops that you can sign up for, and check back regularly because we're constantly adding new workshops to this website. And then the last link, and onto the website, there's also a link where you can get directly to our Cal State Fullerton Canvas. And the last link is the direct link to get into our current Canvas instance that Kyle will be showing as well. So that is our actual live Canvas instance. So whatever you create, that's what you will actually be using for your courses. Or if you want to create a sandbox, you can do that too. Okay, thank you, Kyle.
Perfect. Thank you for interjecting. I think that's going to help people get in. Thank you so much, Dusty, for that. So hopefully everybody's in. Now we're in our Canvas course, and the first thing we're going to do is not even going to be about content. It's going to be about, remember that picture of the cockpit? The first thing we're going to do is clean up some of our cockpit, because right now there's so many buttons, so many bells, so many whistles. In fact, let me just give you a really cool tool. When you're in Canvas on the home page, so you click on the home page right here, there's an option right over here called Student View. Because I remember I mentioned that we're gonna see what it looks like for a teacher, and we're also going to talk about what it looks like for a student. Well, this Student View tool, if I click this, watch what happens. Notice that now everything changes. There's different menu button options available. I don't have my edit buttons over here. Everything looks a little bit different. And obviously it's empty because I haven't created anything. But the point that I'm making here is this is what the course looks like for a student, okay? So that Student View tool is extremely helpful as you go through the development process, because you're going to need to know what the course looks like for your students. Now, to leave Student View, you just click down here in this button right down here, Leave Student View. So I click that, and now it takes me back to my teacher controls, okay? But that Student View function, absolutely critical to your development. So I just wanted to point that out there. We're going to be using it from time to time. It only appears when you're on the home page. for the most part. You can access it from other areas, but for us, let's just go to the home page and there's that student view button, okay? So anyway, so our Canvas course, the first thing we're gonna do is clean this up for our student, because even in student view, when we're in student view, there's still a lot of buttons and bells and whistles that they don't know what they do. And so I wanna clean this up. That's the first thing I'm gonna do. This is the first thing I do in every single Canvas course that I create. So what I'm gonna ask you to do right now is don't follow along, just watch me. Then I'm gonna give you 5 minutes or so to do this same thing, okay? So just watch me for now. I'm gonna scroll down and I'm gonna click on settings down at the bottom. Settings is always at the bottom. So I'm gonna click on settings. And then from my settings, I'm gonna click on navigation right here, okay? And now it shows me my list of my course menu options. You can kind of see, so here's home, home, announcements, announcements, assignments, assignments, discussions, you know, you get the idea, right? Well, what I wanna do is I wanna hide some of these for my students. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna click and drag. I'm gonna move all of these down except for a few items. I'm gonna do everything except for modules, grades, discussions, or no, home, announcements, modules, and grades. And I want them in this order, okay? Now, what this does is it keeps all of these visible, but hides these from my students. I'm gonna answer more questions about this in just a minute, but for now, I wanna just hit save and I'm gonna turn the time over to you to go do that in your course. So go and click on, so remember how I did that. I went to settings down at the bottom and then I clicked on navigation and then I just drag and drop, and then don't forget to save at the end. I'm gonna leave this page up. I'm also going to turn the music on just a little bit so that we can kind of have an idea as to, you know, when I stop, I'll turn the music off. And then I'm also going to be in the chat reviewing, or not the chat, but the question and answer, reviewing any questions as you guys have any questions. So go through and go ahead and set up your navigation just like I've set up mine, okay? I know you may want to do it different in the future, but for now, just do it the same as mine, and then we'll talk more about it in a minute.
You're the best, are we? It's so hard to tell when nobody's breathing. Holding your chest, until we get so tired that we forget what we're racing. I know that you're right, every time, but I fight it 'cause that's just what I'm like, yeah. I think you're the best, should we live at 5 a.m. when everyone's sleeping? And I caught up to your taxi.
All right, guys, we're going to jump back in. That task that I gave you is a little bit smaller one, so I'm guessing most people are probably finished. I went through the Q&A, and I think I answered most of the burning questions. Laura, you mentioned that you can't seem to find modules. We'll get, if you look in the list and look it over a few times, it is there with sometimes it tends to blend in a little bit. But as long as you found that list, then it will be there somewhere in that list. So cool. So now that you have your navigation set up, I want to talk a little bit more about it. Because if we go back to my pilot, my cockpit picture, and we look at my picture here, one thing that if you had to ask a professional pilot to go and find a gauge in the cockpit, they could almost certainly do it. And that is because they are familiar with aviation, they're familiar with the controls, they're familiar with the cockpit of an airplane. It's the same with Canvas. Right now, we've chosen to hide a lot of things from our students. We've hidden almost everything. And that's because that's going to be their first experience. And by the way, the templates that your university is creating for you, they actually have already hidden some of these things. So you might go into your course and the stuff might already be hidden. But the thing about these navigation menus is as your students become more comfortable with Canvas, you may want to reveal a little bit more here, a little bit more there, basically just to provide more function within Canvas. Because Canvas provides all these great features, there might be a reason why we want to use them. So I'm not saying hide them all the time, otherwise we wouldn't even have the option to change this. But my point is especially at the beginning of your course, be sure to hide most of it, hide all of it as much as you can. And then as students begin to, as they progress throughout your course and they might need some of these things, go ahead and reveal them throughout the course. There's a whole nother way, there's a whole other question as to how you do that when, you're working maybe in a course that's not timed. But for the most part, if you're following a standard university semester, you can generally just kind of reveal things as you go if that's needed. Now, the other question I often get here is over here on the left, you can see these icons, these little eyeball icons. That means that it's hidden from the students. And the question I always get at this point is people say, well, Kyle, we left announcements available. Why is it hidden still? And the answer is, I usually like to ask people, what do you think the answer is? And I bet someone out there knows it. But with this format, it doesn't lend itself to that as quite as well. So I'll just tell you, basically, because we haven't created any announcements, Canvas hides that. Canvas is pretty smart. It knows that, hey, since there's no announcements, why would I show that to students? That's just confusing because they'll go there and it'll be empty. So I'm just going to hide it. And then as soon as you as the teacher make an announcement, it then is available. So what that means for you is you don't have to worry about it. As long as your menu's set up correct in settings, you're good to go. And then as you create content, they'll begin to appear. Now this settings area, I think I should mention that there's other details in here that you may want to explore. We're not going to go into them today simply because of time. I want to focus on the most important pieces. However, this may be an area that you may want to explore a little bit later, okay? Now, with that, let's go ahead and go back to our homepage. So we click on our homepage and it brings us to our Canvas homepage, which right now doesn't look like much, right? But I want to give you an example. Let's go into a course that I've created before, and we could share lots of examples if we needed to, but let's look at this sample course. And if you look at this, this is what my students will see when they first come into this course. In fact, if I go into student view, and this is more of a corporate view, this is less of a higher education, but you can see right at the top, we have employee onboarding. There's a little introductory, in fact, this is template text, so it's not even real text, but it gives us a little bit of information right up front, right? And as we scroll down, they can access different areas to learn about a company, get help, get a schedule idea, get your benefits, that kind of thing. They can all see that right from this front page. So this is a good front page. I love it. Now that said, let's go ahead and leave student view. Let's look at one that's a little more applicable to academia. It's not made as my front page yet, but let's go ahead and access this other sandbox course. And we'll look at my pages here. I have a page that we're going to build. So here's a homepage sample. And you don't need to be following along, by the way. I'm just showing you things. I should have mentioned that up front, but basically this is what we're going to build today. We're going to build, and actually this isn't complete. I have a banner I'm going to add, but I have an introductory video that kind of welcomes students to the course. I have text, maybe a little bit of, just a little bit of information about the course. And then down below, I have some icons and some buttons that lead to different areas of the course and a link to my syllabus down at the bottom. Now, a couple of things I'm going to mention about this homepage that I love, and some of the things you should follow along with. is your homepage should be clean. If it has too much stuff in it, then it's going to be a challenge for students to navigate. If they have to read the whole homepage just to know where to navigate, I mean, imagine if you showed up at somebody's house and you had to walk the entire perimeter of the house before you found the front door, before you knew where to go. That would be a very frustrating experience. Our courses are the same way. We want our content to be accessible to students. They should be able to look at our course and identify where the next step is without us having to explain it. And that's what the homepage is about. So you want to try to keep it clean. Couple things that I would encourage you to put on a homepage. If you're taking notes, I would take notes of this, you know, like, and the header would be what to put on a homepage. I would put an introduction to the course, which could be in a video format, could be a little bit of text. I would make sure you include links to course resources, okay? And that's it. Now, which resources you should include, maybe you could make a note of that. I'd put a link to maybe a teacher page. I'd put a link to how to get help in Canvas, maybe a course schedule if you need it. I'd be sure there's a link to your syllabus, these kind of things. There might be other important pages that are specific to your course that you want to be sure and include, but either way, you don't want to make it too full, because if you put too much, it's like they have to sift through everything before they can even interpret the course. So we want to make sure it's organized, that it's clean, that it's easy to use. And that's what we're going to do in this new sandbox. We're going to create a brand new course, which, by the way, those links that I sent you in Google, one of the links I sent you should take you to a resource folder. Now, yours might look a little bit different because you don't have access to edit and everything. So it might look something like this. But there's a link in Google that contains some, it contains a couple things. It contains some buttons right here, these images. It also contains a video that I created as kind of a goofy video. There's a banner image, and then there's a syllabus, a sample syllabus. This resource document, that's not for building the course. That's just the resource document that we talked about. So this, these items, what I want you to do is I want you to download them. If you hover and click on this icon, you can download them, okay? So go ahead and download those to your computer. While you guys do that, I'm gonna turn the music on again for just like 2 minutes. This break won't be very long, but I wanna look through our Q&A and give you a chance to download those. So go ahead and go to that folder and download those items.
If you're looking for truth and proof, you'll find it there. You got to search something, ain't that right? I know it gets dark, but there's always a light. You don't have to buy in to get into the club. Trade your worries. You gotta show up if you wanna be seen. If it matters to you more, it matters to me. I'm gonna fall hard, yeah, I know I am. When the clouds crack up, I laugh with them. There ain't no man can save me. There ain't no man can enslave me. Ain't no man, oh man, that can change the shape my soul is in. There ain't nobody here who can cause me pain or raise my fear.
There's a quick question. How do I get on Google? This might be true for a couple people. Christina mentioned it, but I want to make sure. There was an email that DUSD sent out that should have a link to this folder, okay? So you should be able to click on a link in an email from DUSD, and then it will take you to this folder. And then from there, you should be able to download the content, okay?
There ain't no man can save me. There ain't no man can enslave me. There ain't no man, oh man, that can change the shape my soul is in. There ain't nobody here who can cause me pain or raise my fear. 'Cause I got only love to share. If you're looking for truth and proof, you'll find it there. You got to go somewhere, ain't that true?
I'm hearing some people say they can't download the option. You should be able to, I mean, I'm not logged into this account, and you should be able to just hover, and then there's a little download icon right there. And when you click that, it should download. If there's a... Hi, and welcome to my course. We're gonna learn all about the art. That's not what I wanted to do. So if you click that little download option, it should download. This one, I'm wondering if I click on it and then... Hi. Yeah, up here at the top, there's a download option. Some people are saying that they still can't access the download. Hopefully. So the other question was asked, should I download all the contents? Yeah, go ahead and download all the contents. We want to make sure you have, we're going to be using that content to build our sample. Okay. So, all right. Sorry, it's tough to, some are still saying they can't download. Maybe, Sapita, if you want to kind of follow up on those, make sure, because I answered the question, but I'm just not sure if it actually answered, you know, if people are able to do it. Some people are saying if you right click on the file, the download button appears. So if it looks a little different on a Mac, I don't know if everybody's working on the same computers. You may have to be a little creative in the way that you work with it. Sorry, because I'm not seeing your screens. It's tough to give you hands-on help, and I kind of hate that. But hopefully we're all there. There's some people that still can't download. Maybe, Sapita, if you could reach out to those people individually, there might be other options to get people those samples. In the meantime, what we're gonna do is we're gonna move forward with the presentation of how to do this. So I'm gonna recommend you guys do not follow along for this piece. Now we have the files downloaded. So I'm gonna recommend you don't follow along for this piece, but I just want you to watch me do this, and then we're gonna have you try it out. That way, if you don't have the content downloaded right now, that's okay. You can get it, we'll work on getting you that content. Maybe Sapita, if you can look through who doesn't have that content and see what we can do to somehow get it to them. Because some people are able to download it and some people are not. So I'm not sure what the difference between the two is. So maybe there's a way we can support them. I'm gonna go ahead and move on with creating our homepage. I'm gonna just ask everybody to watch. And then in the meantime, some of our support resources, some of the people who are helping out in the Q&A are gonna look into that a little further. So to set up a homepage, so when I click on home in Canvas, this takes me to my homepage. This is my current homepage, it's empty, right? And over here on the right, you can see this choose homepage option right here. I can actually choose a different homepage. If I click on this, it gives me a few options. I can do a course activity stream, course modules, assignments list, syllabus, or pages front page. The pages front page is what you're going to want to do. This is the option that is best because it's the most customizable. You can create that front door effect that we're looking for, where it's welcoming, where it has the resources that students need. You're welcome to explore the other options, but to be quite honest, I never go with any other option, and that's no exception. I always go with my own custom built front page. You'll notice though that it's grayed out. I can't select that. And if you had to take a guess, you know, it's because that page has not been yet created. So we need to create it. So let's do that now. I'm going to go ahead and just cancel out of this page. And then I need to go to my pages box right over here on the left. Okay, so I need to go to pages. So I click on pages. This takes me to my pages box. This displays all of the pages in my course, which obviously is a brand new course. I don't have anyone, okay? This is my empty pages box. I need to add a page, so I come right up here to my add a page button, click add. So the steps I've followed through with, I've gone to pages. That's the first step, and then the second step was add a page. And now I'm just gonna call this my home page, okay? And there's the few things we're gonna go over. I wanna make sure I have my list here. We're gonna talk about adding images. We're gonna talk about adding links, documents, and then we'll talk a little bit about videos, apps, and accessibility. Okay, I know that's a bit of a long list, but we're gonna get into all those details with this tool. Now, oh, hold on, let me change something. I didn't realize that I hadn't changed this. Forgive me, ignore the man behind the window, or behind the curtain there. I'm just changing a setting on my course so that it will have the new rich content editor. This is something that I should have asked before. Does Dee or somebody with our CSU support team, do you guys know if you guys are using the new rich content editor? Does it look like this or does it look like my old one? When you get into a page, does it look like mine or does it look different? And I can just run look really quick. Sorry, I'm just going to check this because I don't want to train you guys on the old tool or the new tool. I'm going to use Aaron Berg Sandbox. I don't know if he's in this one.
A couple people are saying that it does look like yours.
It does look like mine. Okay. Perfect. So if it looks like mine, then we're good. So we're working with the right editor. Perfect. So with that said, let's talk about how this editor works. Now, before we build anything, so I'm going to call this my home page. This is my title. Okay, so I'm going to give it a title. And these icons up here, most of them are probably familiar to you, especially up to this point. The ones that we're going to talk about more specifically, I'm going to zoom out for a minute. So I'm going to talk more specifically about these icons. And then we'll talk about this one too. The others we're not going to dive deep into, and there's a couple reasons for that. One, they don't apply to everybody. Two, they're a little more challenging to use, so it's a little bit more advanced. But and then these icons we're not talking about because for the most part, those are very same. I mean, they're very similar and the same as they would be in your Google document or something of that nature. So if you work in Microsoft Word, a lot of the functions are very similar. But the first thing I want to do is I'm going to add my banner, okay? So if I look at my resource folder, I'm going to put this banner right at the top. So I know that's my art class, okay? So to do this, first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to want my banner centered. So in my align, I'm going to go ahead and center it. And then I'm going to click on the images here and click upload image. Wherever I downloaded that image to, so I'm going to click this little box here, and wherever I downloaded that image to, here's my art banner. Or hold on here. Where's the one that I was actually using? Here it is. So I'm going to go ahead and add this image. And there it is. Now it may not be the size that I want yet. That's okay. I'm going to click on the image, click options, and then let's go ahead and I'm going to choose the size. I want it to be extra large. So I want it to appear just like that. Then I'll hit enter. So now my cursor's like right here and I'm good to go. Now, one thing you'll notice when you design things in Canvas, it's not like Microsoft Word. It's not like PowerPoint. I can't drag this and put it where I want it. Okay. I can't put that where I want it. It doesn't work like that. Okay. And it's because we're building a web page. So it's a little bit different. So we need to use the tools up here as we build. Okay, instead of trying to drag and drop. And then a lot of it is point and click. Okay, so I'm going to add that banner. Now I'm going to stop here. We'll do more. We're not going to go move this slow through every step, but I want to make sure that everybody's at least up to speed with adding an art banner. So what I did is I started with pages. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and save my work real quick. So I started with pages. I click on pages. It takes me to all of my pages, which you may have none. If you don't have any, click on this add a page button. I'm going to go ahead and open up my existing page. And then it will bring you into this editor right here, okay, where we add a title and then upload an image using this icon right here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and turn the music on and watch the help or watch the questions. It looks like it's filled up pretty well, so I want to make sure that I'm up to speed with that. So you'll have about 5 minutes or so to do this. Not that I'm trying to set a timer, but I want to have time to be able to get up to speed. So give me just a second to be able to review the question and answer, and then we'll kind of move from there.
No Bible
just a quick update. I don't know who's doing what. It sounds like some people are working on a Mac, but Terry threw out there that if you double click on the resource document things, and then they'll open, and then you can click on the download button from there. So that's how she was able to access it from the Mac. So I don't know if that helps anybody. I'm not sure if we're still having a download issue or not. I'm looking through the questions, but I'm gonna go ahead and clear out any of questions about the downloads, and then if they're still appearing, then we'll kind of address them from there.
And over graves we'll all get laid, and from the baby some will teach us what the hell our souls were born to
Seeing just a few questions about the images. I'm going to kind of answer some of the reoccurring questions. One is, when people click on this image and they select upload image, is it only drag and drop? No, if you click on this little rocket ship, it will open a browser window, and then you can select from your file system. So you can upload images that way. So that's the answer to one question there. Another is you can insert, somebody asked, hey, can I insert them from the web? You can click on URL and you can add something from a web source. I actually don't encourage that. I encourage you to upload them to your Canvas course, because then it stays as part of your Canvas course. And if someone moves the image, or if you decide to export this course and put it in another course, there's no access issues because it stays with the Canvas course. So whenever possible, I'd encourage you to upload the image that way. Other questions that have been coming through is, how do I resize it? If you click on the image itself, this little options, oops, you saw it there for a second. This little options right here. If I click on that, this little side window appears, and now I can adjust the size right here, okay? There's also other options here that you may want to, take a look at, but for the most part, the size is what most people access from here. So let's see, I've answered some of these questions. Okay, Erico, it looks like you're still having problems with downloading the files. Maybe Gabby or Sapita, maybe one of you could email Erico the files if we need to do that. It sounds like, cool. Some people were able to download. Is there a browser option for the image import? Yeah, I think I answered that, Mary. I think I answered that question about the browse. If you click on the rocket ship there, we'll download the singular link from the first email. Okay, I think we're good there. Sorry, I'm just funneling through our questions. I want to make sure they don't get left unanswered. There's a lot of questions. not able to download. I think we're okay, right? Click. Okay, so the question was, Stacy asked, hey, can we change the meet your teacher button text? I want it to say meet your professor. Yeah, you can change that to whatever you would like, not in the icon itself. One challenge I mean, let me rephrase that, Stacy. Those buttons, they're images and you can't change them. But if you go into an image editor, you can create your own images and then upload them to Canvas. Some of the image editors I recommend, so the one I recommend that most people really like is Canva, okay? I'm not gonna do a huge demo on this, but I'll just kind of show you what it looks like. I have an account and tons of people at universities use this tool because it's so easy to use. Oh my gosh, it's not logging in for me. Come on. There we go, I'm logged in. So this Canva tool, it's canva.com, okay? canva.com. So same as Canvas, but without the S. I created some images here and I created some icons, but they're really easy to create here. So I have all these banners that I created here. And if if I added a new page here, I could come in here and let's see, I could take photos that they have. And I know that this isn't necessarily specific to what we're learning about, but you can add in images. It's a really easy tool to use. This isn't Canvas in particular, but this one is very drag and drop. And then from there, once you have what you want, you can come in here and you can download, and it will allow you to download in a PNG. And then you take it from there and you can put it in your Canvas course. Canvas itself is not an image editor, so you won't be able to edit the images themselves. But if you wanted a button that said, meet your professor, meet the instructor, if you want to change those words, because you may want to make a syllabus button, you may want to make more buttons as well. And you'll probably, especially as you work in Canvas more and more, you'll want to make your own images. So that's the best way to do that. I'm going to try to download files. Okay. Okay. I'm just going through making sure we're clearing up this help. When I upload an image, it shows a question mark. Any idea why? I am not sure. It could be an issue with where the image is or the image file type. Kathy, I'm not really sure on that one. The title of the pic visible to peeps. So Tara, you ask, is the title of the image, so when I click on options, this alt text or the title of the detail, it is not visible, but one of the things you'll want to do is check this no alt text. That way screen readers, in other words, users with disabilities, as they use screen readers, it will not read that as part of the text. You don't want to do that on all your images, just on the ones that are decorative. All right. Okay, so the video is not, so Erica sent out an email with the files. The video's not in there, so if you can't do the video, that's okay. We'll just have to, we'll just kind of have to go from there. We're gonna go ahead and move on with our instruction because I want you to see these other pieces. But we're gonna show you how to do a few other things in Canvas and then give you a little bit more chance to play around with this image editor, and then we'll go from there. So now to make this, now what I want to do is I'm going to add my welcome video in right here. So to add media, I come right up here to this media icon, and there's different ways to add media, FYI. You can add them from YouTube. You can add them from an app called Studio, which you guys have, which is absolutely phenomenal, but that's a little bit more detailed, a little bit more advanced. Today, we're just going to add a video file, but there are other ways to do it. If I click on upload media, I'm just going to do an upload record media. Same thing, here's the drag and drop. I'm gonna click here and let's see here. Here's my welcome video sample. We'll go ahead and use this one. So I'm gonna go ahead and add it in like this, hit submit. And now my video's in Canvas. Pretty straightforward. We're not gonna take a break to add videos. You can do that when you have a little bit more of when you have some break time. But now I need to add my text in. Let's go back to, I have some pre-organized text. text from the other sample that you saw. So I'm going to change my orientation to left and paste that in. So now I have some text in here. I'm going to format my text a little bit. I would recommend just kind of glance at what I'm doing here. Personally, I think most of you are probably familiar with formatting text. So I'm not going to slow down a great deal here, but I'm just going to kind of change the size. It's actually, I know that we're working with older populations in universities, but it is helpful to make text larger. If you go to web pages, oftentimes the large text is what people read. So if you want somebody to read something, make it larger like you would in a heading or something. These items I'm going to go ahead and make larger. And then we're going to go ahead and indent these, which, by the way, if you guys like this, the little emojis, which I know they seem a little bit juvenile, but they can be great for creating signals in Canvas. Your eyes are drawn to those icons. So immediately I get the idea of what it is my student is going to be in my course, right? So if you want to get those icons like that, those little emojis is actually what they are, you can go to a website called Emojipedia. I'll throw it in the chat. I know that you guys don't have access to copy from the chat, so you may have to, either we'll have somebody email this link out to you, or you may just have to type it in. Oh, it looks like our chat was completely just, oh no, there we go, okay. I'll throw it in the chat there. But this is Emojipedia. This is where you can actually come here and say, I want, what I use a lot of times are the symbols and the objects to represent things. So if I go to objects, say you're teaching science or something like that. I think in here there's a microscope. Yeah, there's a microscope right there. And all of these icons, all these emojis, they're treated the same as text. So if I were to highlight this science laboratories and just copy it, the emoji is the same way. I can just highlight the emoji and copy it. And then when I come over to my course, I just paste it. And now I have an icon. If I want it to be bigger, just like I'd make text bigger, I make my icon bigger, okay? So you can use little icons to create signals throughout your courses. And that works in a lot of different places in Canvas. It can be really helpful. So those emojis are pretty cool. We can add those in. The next thing I'm gonna do is now add my buttons in. Before I had those buttons that led to different places, you know, the Meet Your Teacher button, all that kind of stuff. So to add those buttons in, those are just simply images with links in them. So I'll show you how to do that. We're going to add the images just like we did before. So I want these to be centered as well. And now I'm going to come up here and do an image, upload image. And let's see, where's my, we're going to do the Meet Your Teacher one first. Wait for it to load there. Cool. So now I'm ready for the next one. I come up here and just hit upload image. Do the next button. Let's see, we'll do the course schedule next. And then lastly, we'll do one more. I'm going to do the Canvas help. Now, I just added these as images, so they're not buttons yet. In order to be a button, they have to link somewhere. So now we need to create a link with these. And we can create links with text as well as with images. So you can either do buttons, or you can even highlight certain portions of your text and turn those into links. But for these buttons, I'm just going to click on the button. So I just click on it, so it's selected right there. Then I scroll up. Click on the add a link, and I'm just going to do a, you know, I don't have any other links. So I can do one of two things. I can do course links, which if I do course links, it opens up all my boxes. So I can link to another page. I can link to an assignment, a quiz, announcement, discussion, module, anything like that. I don't have any pages or anything. So obviously these course links aren't really helpful to me yet. But I probably would come back and make a Canvas page, a Meet Your Teacher page, and then link to it later. For now, I'm going to go ahead and just link to maybe my LinkedIn profile. So we'll, because that has information about me. So we'll just go to my LinkedIn profile really quick. Sorry, I'm doing this on my other screen, so you're not seeing what's going on here. Give me just a second. So I've got my link. I just copied that link. All I did was copy the website link. So it's just like copying this website link. But then I come down, meet your teacher. I select that button, click link, and do an external link. And then in the link, I'm going to go ahead and put my LinkedIn profile link and hit done. So now that meet your teacher is now a link. So if I hit save, you can see when I hover over the meet your teacher, notice my icon changes. When I click on it, it takes me to my LinkedIn. Well, I'm not signed up, but I can come here and see the LinkedIn profile. Course schedule, I do the same with that. Canvas help, do the same with that. And I would add those links in. Okay, so let me show you one more time on the course schedule. In fact, maybe we'll go and we'll make a page really quick. I'm gonna just make a fake course schedule page. Save. I'm not gonna build the whole page. I'm just gonna give it a name. So it's a blank page, okay? And then in this one, we'll go ahead and link this course schedule button. So we click course schedule. I'm gonna do course links, go to pages, and now we have that page course schedule in here. So we select that, and now we have a course schedule linked, okay? So we can create these different links here in Canvas to be able to link all of our pages together so that students can navigate, which is exactly what we want. We want them to be able to navigate those home pages. Now, I know that what we're going over is a lot. I know that it's a little bit of overload, and especially where I can't sit with you and kind of see where you guys are at. I know it's a lot, but I appreciate you being patient with me. What we're gonna do now is I'm gonna turn on the music again. I have to sneak away because I've been drinking a little bit too much water. You guys can do the same if you need to for just a minute. We're gonna go about 10 minutes on this. I know it's a little bit longer. If you're one of those that you sped through this and you already know how to do this and you're great with doing all this, explore other things in Canvas. There is tons to learn. So I would encourage you to just explore the other buttons. Some of the things I haven't talked about, just click and see what you can find. If you're one of those that needs a little bit of support, be sure to add those questions in the question and answer. I'm going to step out for just a minute, and I'll be back in about 5 minutes, and then I'll be answering questions. So in the meantime, I'm going to turn on music, and I'll be right back.
My feet are falling from the ground.
All right, I'm back. We're still going to be building stuff, so I'm going to just keep the music on, but I'm going to go ahead and sift through our questions and make sure we've got all of those answered. I'm going to pop in here with just one comment. Mr. Gonzalez or Erualdo, I might be pronouncing your name incorrectly, and I apologize if that's the case. But you asked, is there a step-by-step written instruction or guide? Yes, I should have brought this up earlier, but that resource document, if you open up that resource document and this creating a home page, there's links to step-by-step guides. So like, how do I upload or embed an image? How do I embed a video? These are not all the guides on the Rich Content Editor, but if you open up this all Rich Content Editor guides, it will take you to this area where you can see all of these guides on how to use the Rich Content Editor, which the Rich Content Editor is that tool that we're using to build the homepage. The reason why it doesn't just say home pages is because this tool applies to a lot of different areas in Canvas, but these guides can be helpful as you guys are working through some of the problems you might have.
Face to face, this time I need to change my mind. You are all about it, but I can't seem to wrap my mind around what you have found.
I've had a few people asking, how can I make my window bigger? I'm sure that it's frustrating to work in a really little window. As you guys are working in it, it will be kind of small like this. What you use is right down here, these little 8 icons right here, these little 8 tabs. You just click and drag, and you can do that a few times. And then you'll have a window that's bigger to work in. I usually like to drag it until I don't have a scroll bar anymore, so that I'm working in the full page. That's my preference, but you can kind of do it however you like.
If I mistook the sun for a mango, I'd fly up there and reach for it too. It's the story of something older and bigger than me and you. And you told it in a letter in the form of an evergreen cassette. And I played it in the morning till after the sun would set.
Okay, guys, what I'm going to do is I'm going to encourage you to go ahead and take a quick 10-minute break. We've gone over a lot of stuff, and if you really want to and you're not feeling overwhelmed, you're welcome to keep playing around. I'm going to just stay here in the room, but right now it is, let's see, you guys are Pacific time, so you're an hour before me, or an hour ahead of me, so it's 12:20 your time, or no, time zones are, I'm struggling with time zones today.
10:20 Pacific time.
Thank you. So it's 10:20. Let's go ahead and just take a quick break until like 10:30, 10:32. That's when we'll start up our content again. But for now, I'm just going to hang out in the room, give you a chance to, you know, if people want to ask questions, you're welcome to use that. But if you're feeling like it was a lot, please just go get a drink, take a break, use the restroom, whatever you need to do. I'll just let the music keep playing. Sorry, I was muted. All right, guys, we're gonna go ahead and get started with the next. So we're gonna get started with the next piece. And actually, Terry asked a really great question here before we just jump in. They said, can I import or export the page I'm messing around with now? So if you build something in the course that you really like now, the answer is yes, you can get it from this course into a course that you're actually going to use pretty easily, actually. There's a number of ways you can do it, but maybe at the end of our session today, I will kind of show that to everybody. It's gonna be tough to fit everything in. There's so much that we could teach you in Canvas. It's a pretty awesome tool. But yeah, it can be done very easily. Terry, so that's the good news. Anyway, the last few things, I want to show you a couple more things because we've created this page, but we haven't made it our homepage yet. I want to show you just one more thing and then we'll save it. A lot of you probably have content that is in documents. A lot of you probably have content that is in documents like PDFs and things. If you're wanting to import those or embed those directly into Canvas, you can do that pretty easily. And that's what I'm going to do with this syllabus line here. So I'm going to highlight this word syllabus and then come right up here to this document right here. I'm going to add a document. I'm going to upload a document. It's very much like adding an image, so it's not all that different. I'm going to find my syllabus. Where is it? Right here. And then hit submit. It's going to go ahead and add that syllabus in here, and it's right there in the page. I can change the text, so if I just want it to say only syllabus, I can. And I can even, if I click on this and go options, I can make this automatically open an inline preview. What that means is when I hit save, now if I scroll down, it actually displays my syllabus right below. So it displays it right in the page. Now you could take this content out. I could take the syllabus out and then go ahead and just put it in my, just go ahead and throw it in my, like in a Canvas page. And that's actually what I'd recommend. But if you've already got it built in a PDF and you want to just throw it in like this, honestly, there's not a big deal with that. If you don't want it to display, again, all you have to do is when I go back to edit, I just click on the link. So scroll down, click on the link, go to options, and then I uncheck that automatically open inline preview. Hit done. So now it's just going to be a link, and students will still be able to click on it and download the PDF, but it won't display right in Canvas. Now, a couple of questions that were asked about that. Gary said, hey, is there a size limitation for the media video upload? There is a size limitation on courses. It depends on what your university has set. But if you're wanting to know how much space, I believe it can be looked at from settings. I can't quite remember. We might have to, you know, that might be something that you might have to reach out to your admins to see what that setting is set at. Honestly, you shouldn't have an issue if you're importing your videos from Studio and you're importing your images. I mean, images aren't large enough that it's going to cause a problem, generally speaking, unless they're like super high res or something. Most people don't have a problem. And if there is, honestly, the best trick is to, instead of putting things directly in Canvas, you just link them from like Dropbox or link. It will allow you to enter HTML. So anyway, I think that answers all. Ooh, I just heard somebody say the sound cut off. Is the sound cut off for everybody? I just want to make sure. I don't want to go forward without it cut off.
Your sound was cut off, Kyle. You may want to repeat about the video.
Okay, so all I was saying was about the HTML editor. You can edit the code, because Peggy, I think it was, had asked about the HTML editor. If you click on this, it shows you the HTML editor, and you can edit the HTML here. Most users, you don't have to come here. This is not something you have to do. So if that is intimidating to you, don't even worry about it, but you have that option. So, all right, cool. So I think we're there. So now I've built my page. I'm going to go ahead and hit save. And to set this as my page, because right now I've called it a home page, but I actually need to set it as my front page. So I need to click on my pages, or I need to click this view all pages. And now from here, I have my home page. What I can do is I can click these three dots, and look, there's an option that says use as front page, but it's disabled. That's because I haven't published this, and you're not allowed to use a page as a front page unless you published it. Publishing is basically a state of hiding it or displaying it to a student. So when I publish it, students now have the ability to see it. But if I keep it unpublished, they can't see it. That allows me to work on pages and build content, and they don't, they won't actually have to, they won't have to actually be finished until I'm ready to publish them. So you want to publish the page, and I click the three dots, it uses front page. Now it says this is my front page, okay? So I'm in the pages area, I find the page I want as my front page, click the three dots, make sure it's published, and I click use as front page. And then when I come over to my home page, I can go to that home page button that I showed you before, choose home page, and I can say, I want my page as front page, and hit save. And now, here is my home page. Now it could look prettier. I could probably spend more time on it, but that gives you the very kind of basic idea. But remember, as you get excited about building things in Canvas, it's best to have your homepage be simple and clean so that students can navigate it easily, okay? Cool, so with that, I'm gonna give you guys just a few seconds to set your homepage up. Remember, all I did was I went into Pages, I have to make sure I click view all pages here. I find my page that I want to be my front page. I click the 3 dots, hit, now it says remove, but I would select use as front page and then go to home, select the choose home page, and then I can select pages front page. Okay, so I'm going to turn the music on for just another couple minutes, give you a chance to do that, and then we'll jump back in. By the way, as you guys do this, don't forget about the student view. Feel free to look at it in student view, see what it looks like. All right. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to our next piece of content. Just to give you guys a little bit of context as to where we're at in our content, let's come back to our agendas. So we talked about navigating Canvas course, kind of that structure. We gave you an idea of how it works. We also went into creating a homepage, which at the same time, we learned how to use that tool, the rich content editor. That is a key piece in Canvas because we learned how to do it in Pages. We learned how to do it in creating a homepage, but the reality is that applies when you're creating assignments. It applies when you're creating quizzes. It applies when you're creating discussions. All of those same tools like the videos, the images, the text, all those same tools are going to be available when you create those other things. We'll talk about that more as we go on, but I just wanted to point that out that this tool, even though we focused on home pages while we learned it, it is a critical piece in being able to create Canvas content. So the more you exercise your creativity with that, the better you're going to get at it. And it does take practice. And it can be a little bit frustrating at times, but the more you play with it, the better you'll get at it. I promise. Okay. I've been there. Trust me. So the next thing we're going to get into is organizing course content. This is where I'm going to take you back to my, cockpit example really quick. And let's come back to this cockpit example here. And looking at this cockpit, I mean, we're not necessarily pilots, at least I don't think anyone here is. Maybe there's a few. Sorry, I get distracted by the chat. I'm going to look over at the QA in just a second. But with this cockpit image, if I were to tell you look for the fuel gauge, you might come in here and it would be a little bit frustrating because you'd have to look through all the gauges to find the fuel gauge. But it would be much, much easier if I could just segment out this stuff and I said, okay, everything about fuel is here. Everything about airspeed and altitude is here, and everything about, you know, whatever else is here. And I get that's not really how the cockpit works, but the point is if I could section out these different gauges, if I could subsection all of the areas of the cockpit, even though you're not a pilot, you still would have a much easier time being able to navigate that cockpit. You'd be able to get in there and maybe only, you know, if I said this was all the fuel gauges, you would just come in here and you'd look at 5 gauges, you know, or fewer before you find the right one. It would be pretty easy. So it's, being able to organize your content makes an enormous difference, because the reality is while I say it's good to hide stuff from our students, we can't always hide it, right? So we need to be able to organize it into a format that's going to be easy for our students to navigate. And that's done through our modules. In fact, let me just go back to my whiteboard really quick and give you an idea of conceptually how the modules work. So if this is our Canvas course, oops, my drawing is getting real bad. I need to get an iPad with a pen. I've actually been thinking about that. That way I can draw it instead of having to deal with my mouse. But if this is our teacher side and this is our student side, the way I usually recommend it is over here, we have all our boxes that we talked about, right? We've got our pages, we've got our quizzes. I'm not going to draw the whole thing again, but we've got a few pages in here, you know, a few quizzes. What we do over on the student side is we use a tool called modules, okay? And with our modules, we can create a unit 1. So this is our first module, and we dump a page into there so that now there's a page. And then we put a single quiz in there so that now there's a quiz. And then we make a module 2, and we put, you know, the second quiz in there, and then the second page. So the point here is now instead of just dumping all the stuff on our students, we're organizing it and we're structuring it and building it in a way that they can actually use it, that they can actually navigate it so that it's useful for them, okay? And that's what we're gonna do now. We're gonna go into our modules and we're gonna build some of that content. So this is a part where, go ahead and click on modules. So I wanna make sure we're all on the same page, and then you can kind of watch me. So go ahead and click on modules and it should look like this. If you have modules in there already, it won't be empty like mine. Now, while you guys are going there, I'll just answer Terry's question. She said, did you use the Button Factory to make your buttons? And the answer is yes. Good catch on that, Terry. So for those of you that liked my buttons and you want to make some easy buttons, you can come to this website called The Button Factory. I'll go ahead and throw it in the chat again real quick. And give me just a second. By the way, these are all resources that we can compile and then maybe send out an email or something with all these in a link, so you guys don't necessarily have to keep track of them all. But this is a tool where I could come in here, you know, meet your professor. Now I have a meet your professor button, and I can change this. So maybe I don't want it bold, or maybe I don't want the shadow text. Maybe I want, you know, I don't know. Anyway, so you can customize this button to be the way that you want, and then you can download it into an image. So if you guys want different buttons, this is a great way to do it. You can also create buttons in Canva, or you can create them in PowerPoint. There's lots of areas that you could create that stuff. So anyway, with that, let's go ahead and, so now we should all be on this modules page and we're ready to build our modules. Now, this is the part where I'm going to ask you just to watch. Don't try to follow along. I'm going to rapidly develop some modules. Modules are pretty easy to create. In fact, you could probably do it without my help, but I'm going to rapidly do it. That way you can kind of see how it's done. And then we'll go into our question session really quick. But we will break our modules up into a couple different sessions. So we'll do a little bit, practice, do a little bit, practice. And when I say do, I mean show. You know, show a little bit, practice, show a little bit, practice. So we'll kind of go through that process. But first, I'm going to go ahead here and come up here and add a module. Usually in courses, it's a best practice. I do a welcome module. You don't have to call it welcome. You can call it, you know, course information, whatever you want to call it. But this is basically where I'm going to store content that helps the student navigate the course. Things like the syllabus, things like the Meet Your Professor page, things like that that are more specific to not necessarily my content. If I teach history, there's not going to be any history content in there. It's just content that is administrative, is probably the best way to put it. Next, I'm going to go ahead and add another module. We'll call it Unit 1. And then I'm going to just call it the solar system. I'm going to do a kind of a science space course here. And so I've got Unit 1, the solar system, and then I'm going to go do one more and call it Unit 2, our galaxy. So right now, these are just empty boxes, okay? There's nothing in them. There's nothing in those modules. They're placeholders, okay? I'm creating structure, and this is going to help my students navigate. I'm creating empty boxes. Now, in the Welcome to My Course, to add content to this, now you can do one of two things, okay, when you develop Canvas courses. You can either create the structure first and then go fill in the guts, or you can create the guts and then go and fill in the structure. And what I mean by that is you can go and create all your modules and kind of create the framework and then go put the details of the content in it, which is actually the recommended way to do things. That's how I recommend you do it, because then you can plan out your content a lot more. But if you have stuff that's already created, you can also add it to modules. So like, for example, my Meet the Professor page, I could come over here to this module, click on Add, and we're going to select what type of content it is. In this case, we're looking at a page. So I'm going to select a page, and the course, oh, it wasn't the Meet Your Professor, it's the course schedule. So I'm going to go ahead and add that in and add that. Now I have a course schedule. But I probably want to Meet Your Professor page. So I'm going to go ahead and click the add, and under pages, I can create a new page right from here. So I just come in here and say, Meet Your Professor. Okay. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to go ahead and add another page, maybe one that says help with Canvas. This is going to be a page that just provides general student help so that, you know, they have a little bit of support if they need it in submitting assignments, things like that. So I can create a little bit of structure here. Okay, so I can create these items a little bit and make it easy to navigate. Solar system, I'm going to go ahead and add in here, you know, new page. I'm just going to call it Chapter 1, the solar system. And then maybe I'm going to come in here and I'm going to go ahead and add after Chapter 1. Now I did that as a page. Pages are basically just, they're almost like handouts. Students don't submit anything on pages. But after they look at the Chapter 1 page, we'll go ahead and have them do an assignment. So we'll go ahead and submit an assignment that we call solar system planets. It's some kind of assignment that has to do with the planets. And then we're also going to come up here, hit add, and let's go ahead and add a quiz. So we'll do a quiz at the end, and we'll just call it Chapter 1 solar system quiz. We're keeping it simple just for, you know, because I'm making this stuff up as I go. Now there might be a Chapter 2 in here as well. So I could come in here and hit add. Within our solar system, we're going to do a new page that this is Chapter 2. Okay. So now I'm adding content to my modules. I'm building some things out. And to add anything, you can tell that these are different types of content. This is a page, this is an assignment, this is a quiz, this is a page, okay? And I can create these different pieces of content. And what's happening on the back end is if I go back to my pages, notice all those pages I created, well, I have to click view all pages now because I've got a home page. All those pages I created, they now live here as well. They're empty, so if I go into my Chapter 1, the solar system page, it's empty, there's nothing in it. I'm gonna have to come in here and click edit, and do my rich content editor stuff. I'm gonna have to do my magic here. But for now, I have a placeholder in my modules so that I can keep my stuff organized. It makes it easy to create my course. So that said, what I'm gonna do now is remember how I got here. I clicked on modules and then I hit add module to add to each one of the modules. And then in each individual module, I clicked the plus button to add content, okay? I'm gonna give us another 5 minutes, 5-10 minutes to be able to do this. I would recommend if you already have an idea of what your course will look like, try building modules for your own course. But if you're not sure and you're just here to learn today, just duplicate what I've done. You can use my Welcome to My Course and solar system example. Go through and build your own modules. And in the meantime, I'm going to answer questions in the Q&A.
Dressed up, nowhere to go. TV's on, no one's home. Look me up, I'm not there. Leave a message, show you care. Meal for two, eat for one. This place of worship has come undone. Shadow frame on the wall, no photograph to look out for. I'll be your gold angel if you want me. I'll be your gold angel, baby, you want me.
All right, guys. All right, everybody, let's go ahead and let's take this next step with modules, because hopefully you have some modules built now. Now, as you build modules, one of the things you need to consider is how much content you're putting in your modules, because if you put a big long list in modules, then it can be difficult for your students to navigate. But to be honest, sometimes there's no way around that, because I made this sample that is maybe a day worth of content, right? Like, this isn't nearly what your courses are going to look like once you build them all out. So you're going to have to know some strategies to be able to organize your content even further rather than just putting it in modules. So I'll show you a couple things. And we'll do it here with the solar system. So the first thing is adding text headers that can be really, really helpful. So if I come over here and hit add, I can come up here and we're going to add a text header. So this is where I'm selecting the item. So I'm not doing pages or anything. I'm just going to do a text header, and we'll just call it chapter 1. We'll move this up to here. So you can drag and drop using those 8 dots. Now let's go ahead and add another one. We'll call it chapter 2. So now we've got chapter 1, chapter 2, kind of breaks things up. Now this text doesn't go anywhere. It's not a link. It's just a header that divides things up, okay? Now, the other thing I can do is I can come in here and click the 3 dots on these. I can indent these so that visually my students have a better understanding of the structure of my course, okay? So I can indent those items. So I'm gonna wanna do that. And some people say, I don't like to do that. I don't really care if it looks pretty. But I want you to think about that for a minute. Think about a newspaper. If a newspaper wasn't formatted to be easier to read, let's say it was like a book and it was just literally just text after text after text after text after text, would anybody or would nearly as many people read it as they do? Probably not, because it would be difficult to read. In order to find the story you're looking for, you'd have to read the whole newspaper, right? And your course is the same way. So this is more than just making it look pretty. You really should invest the time to format your course in the proper way. In fact, a couple other things that you can do is create signals with emojis. We talked about emojis earlier, but if we come in here, and our first one was solar system, so I'm gonna go ahead and type solar system. Isn't the Milky Way our galaxy? I don't know, I think so, I don't know. To be honest, I'm out of my league now. But I'm gonna use the sun one for our solar system. So if I come up here and edit my, so I copied it just like text, and now I can add a little emoji in there. And I can add the Milky Way in here for chapter 2, so that now, right away, my students can identify where those headers are. Right away, they can see where those divisions in my content exist, okay? So I strongly encourage you to use some kind of signal. If the little pictures are a little too busy for you, you can even find emojis, like there's a blue diamond one that I use pretty often, but just this small blue diamond. It's kind of not too intrusive, but I'll come in here and I'll add this, and you know, it's not necessarily cutesy like the emojis, but I still have that signal. My students can still see where my content breaks up, okay? So I want to break up my content using text headers, using indentations, using those signals with emojis. I actually learned just this week, actually. If any of you are familiar with Unicode, you can actually use Unicode to create bold. So what I did is I just typed chapter 1 in here, and I have all these options. I can use this bold chapter 1 right here. So I'm going to copy that, bring it over. And in my header, I'm going to switch out this chapter 1 with my Unicode, and now it's bold. Okay, so that was a Unicode converter website. It's kind of helpful. I'll go ahead and throw that in the chat. Just another resource that's helpful for building things. So just something that I've used before. Again, you don't have to do that. All these things are optional, but just consider how you want to structure things. And that actually comes into play when we talk about the emojis too. Do not overload with the emojis. Some people that I teach, sometimes they're like, oh, emojis, I can put those everywhere. But if they're everywhere, then people's eyes don't know where to look. And so as a result, they lose their value. They lose their value as a signal. So don't go overload on the emojis, but it's just about creating some signals so that students know how to navigate your course. Okay, it can be really helpful. Now, that said, now I have my module built. One last thing I want to share with you. So these modules aren't published, so that means students wouldn't see them, but I'm going to go ahead and publish them. And if I go back to my home page, and let's go to student view really quick. And if I go to my modules now as a student, notice they don't even have to do welcome to my course. They could skip straight to chapter, unit 1. Chapter 2 doesn't, or unit 2 doesn't display because it's not published, but they could just jump straight into this content. They could completely skip this, which might be okay in this case, because it's just the welcome module. However, especially if I had unit 2 in here, I don't want students skipping content. There may be reasons why I want to display it or not display it. And actually, I think I answered your question, Gary. You said, is the module visible right after building? It is not. It's not until you publish it. So I think I answered your question, but go ahead and throw your question in again if I didn't answer it. So, and then Mark, you asked how accessible are emojis to the screen reader programs. They're accessible. They will be read by the screen reader, but it'll say like Blue Diamond, chapter 1. And I have asked people who use screen readers about this, so I don't know if this is the official word, okay? But, and I've done a little bit of research on that because I've been a little concerned about that myself. And with accessibility, generally, those with screen readers, they're familiar with emojis because they've kind of become a part of our world now. That people with screen readers, they use Facebook, they use social media, and there's emojis all over the place. So they're pretty familiar with the emojis through a screen reader. But where it can get really annoying, and multiple people, I've done a little bit of research and lots of them have told me it's really annoying when there's emojis over and over again. So when there's 4 or 5 in a row, when it's like blue diamond, blue diamond, blue diamond, blue diamond, that's too much. It makes it too arduous to navigate your content. But in this case, where we use them sparingly throughout as signals, I think we're okay. Now, I haven't found the official word on accessibility with emojis, actually, but so that may be a policy you may want to set at the university level, but that is how the screen reader reads them. It will just read the text of the emoji. It'll say, blue diamond, or it'll say like sad face or whatever. So anyway, Daniel, I see your question about the paragraph. You can add more text. I don't know if there's a limit to the amount you can add in a module. I would not recommend putting that there. If you're wanting to put a paragraph, I'd put a paragraph on a page and then link it through the module. But that's the approach I would take, but maybe I don't understand your context. So I don't know, that may be something that we have to explore. Anyway, one last thing I want to show you, because we talked about the problem of students accessing content when they shouldn't. So jumping to unit 1 when they should be on Welcome to My Course. What you can do is you can leverage the lockup setting. So if I go to the module itself and click on the 3 dots, I call this a kebab menu. Click on the kebab menu, hit edit. I can lock it until a certain date, so I can control when they access it. Or I can even add a prerequisite. So I say, hey, you cannot go to chapter or unit 1 until you complete Welcome to My Course. and I hit update. And so now there's a prerequisite. But there is one problem with that prerequisite, because Canvas doesn't really know what it means to complete this module. And when I say, what I mean by that is, if I have an assignment in there, Canvas doesn't know, like, does the student have to get a certain score, like 100% on a quiz before they can move on? Or do they just have to complete the quiz? Or do they just have to look at a page? Like, what does it mean to complete the module? That's where we come into, you know, the first module, welcome to my course. We click the 3 dots, hit edit, and we add requirements. So we say, hey, students must complete all these requirements. The course schedule page, they have to view it. Then the meet your professor, they have to view it. And then the help with Canvas, they have to view it. I can say, you know what, help with Canvas, you don't have to look at that one, because if you can get around Canvas on your own without help, that's fine with me. So I'm gonna go ahead and hit update module. And now it tells students, hey, you need to view it, view it. Let's go look at this in student view really quick. Student view. And jump back to modules. So now I'm gonna have to reset my student view, because I changed those settings after the student had already accessed. So I had to click that reset student view. So notice Unit 1, the solar system, is locked up, and it tells me, hey, I have to complete welcome to my course. So as a student, if I look at the course schedule, and then I can either click next or go back to modules. I'll just go ahead and click next. And now I view mute your professor, and I go back to modules now. Since I viewed both those pages, it gives me little check boxes. I've done both of those, right? So I've completed this one. And now I can access Unit 1. So there's different ways that you can control what students see and what they don't see. You can also use the publishing function to do that. So you can publish or unpublish content. But controlling student view is really a critical component, because it comes back to that concept, that cockpit concept that we talked about, where, you know, you don't want to display everything all at once. You want to kind of guide the students' learning and help them walk through. So with that, I'm going to give you about 5 more minutes to try that on your own, adding some prerequisites, adding the emojis, adding the indentations, the text headers, organize your modules so they're a little bit cleaner. And then I'm also going to take a look at the chat and answer any questions there. Laura asked, can you repeat how to add prerequisites? I'm going to do that, Laura, but I imagine some people are still doing emojis and stuff. So in about 2 minutes, I'll repeat how to do prerequisites. So as people are working on the other stuff, they can, you know, you can work on other stuff, and then I'll do prerequisites again, because I know I just threw a lot at you. So I'll do that in just a little bit.
Nothing
Hey, Joe, I'm not sure I understand your question. You're saying, is there a way for modules to go away? Are you talking about individual modules to go away, or you don't want to use modules at all? And that may change my answer. So I'm going to dismiss that question. Go ahead and revise your question to add a little clarity, and then I'll answer it.
One little pill to take me straight from side being another little pill to take my problems, wash them all away. The problems that you're running from, face it. Just think about it. They say to just take it. Just think about it. No, I know you'll make it. The problems that you're running from. Doctor, doctor, tell me everything that I need. Show me if I'm losing my mind. Tell me if I'm wasting my time. Depression is an ugly word. Face it.
Okay, I'm going to take a minute and repeat how to do prerequisites for Laura. I don't know if you figured it out, Laura. I know with this Q&A format, sometimes it's like, hey, you figured it out, and but I'm sure there may be others. We've got a lot of people in this group, so there may be others who may want to see that again. So prerequisites, you're going to add at the module level. So you'll need to find the module, not the content in the module, but the module itself, okay? And then you click on the three dots, hit edit, and then from here, you can choose to lock until, right? You can add prerequisites, so you select a module. Now this option will only display if it's the second module or further, because if it's the first module in your course, there can't be a prerequisite, right? And then you can add requirements by clicking add here, and you can add the different requirements. So that's kind of the basics of it. There are more details, by the way, in the resource document about adding requirements. So within modules, how do you add requirements? How do you add prerequisites? Kind of those little details. So there is more in the resource document on how to do that as well. So I'd encourage you to explore that if you want kind of a step-by-step. But that's the basics of it. I'm going to give you just like 1 or 2 more minutes, and then we'll jump back into content.
Let's talk about it. I'm here to just take it. Just think about it. Yeah, I know you hate it. The problems that you're running from. Doctor, doctor, tell me everything that I need. Show me if I'm losing my mind. Tell me if I'm wasting my time. Take me straight from side to play. Take my problems, wash them all away. Wash them all away. Wash them all away. Wash them all away.
All right. Okay, we're going to go ahead and move forward. If you didn't quite finish all your stuff, that's okay. And keep in mind, everyone, that what we're doing today, we're not building a whole course, right? So sometimes people in these trainings, they really want to get through, they get excited about building, they want to build a whole course. And I think that's awesome. But the reality is we're not going to do that in the time that we have. It takes a long time to build out content, as you all well know, because you've done it before. So, you know, in previous LMS applications. So same thing with Canvas. It takes time to build content. And I think that time's worth investing, but we just can't get it all done in one training session, unfortunately. But with that said, now what we're going to do, we're actually done with modules and organizing our course. And in many ways, we've set our course up for success in regards to the organization, because we know how to navigate it. We controlled the navigation. We kind of set that up and controlled that for students. We created a nice home page that gives students an easy access, kind of a window into or kind of a front door into our course, showing them where to go. Now we've organized our content in a format that students can easily navigate. So it makes it really easy for students to get to the right content. And finally, now we're going to talk about, okay, the guts. What type of content can I put in Canvas? What exists in Canvas? How can I use the different types of content? Okay. And this is the piece where I'm going to share a lot with you, give you the chance to explore, but unfortunately we can't dive into every piece of content that can be created in Canvas. It just can't really be done in the amount of time that we have. That's where the advanced session comes in. We're probably going to dive deeper into some of those different types of content in the advanced training sessions that we have. So don't panic if we didn't cover those. I also tried to provide some good guides so that if you want to go and explore some of this stuff on your own, you can. But the next 45 minutes is mostly going to be giving you a little bit of a taste and giving you a chance to explore a little bit so you can kind of go on your own and try to do things. So let's jump back to my Canvas here. And in Canvas, let's kind of ignore my modules for a minute and just look at my course menu, okay? So my course menu over here, we have things like assignments. That's one of the types of content you can create. We have discussions. We have pages that you can create. Okay, we've already learned a little bit about those. We have quizzes. And those are the big ones I'm going to cover today. Okay, the others are things that are kind of supplemental. They'll help out. But assignments, discussions, and quizzes, for the most part, is how you're going to engage and interact with students, okay? And if you did the module like you did mine, you may have already created an assignment, you may have already created a quiz, okay? But we need to take a minute and explain a little bit more conceptually what is an assignment in Canvas. I don't love this because assignments is one of those really ambiguous words in Canvas. It means two different things, okay? It's like there and there. There's two different meanings of an assignment in Canvas. And let me give you an idea here. We're going to go to my whiteboard again. So we're going to go to my whiteboard again. So in Canvas, we have these things called assignments. That's this broader term. And what it basically means is anything that is graded. Okay? Anything that's graded. That's the term assignments, right? Anything that's graded. And in here, we can have discussions. I'm just going to put a D. So in your notes, you may just have to write discussions. Maybe I can write disc. That'll be at least a little more descriptive. So we have discussions. But here's the thing, discussions can be an assignment or they can just be a non-graded discussion. So it can be just a discussion, like for example, if you had a Q&A page, that's a discussion where students can ask questions, but it's not necessarily graded. You can have that type of discussion, or you can have a graded discussion, and then it falls under this assignment category, okay? You can also have quizzes. Okay, so you can have quizzes, which are considered assignments. They're also quizzes, right? So they're both. And you can actually have quizzes that are non-graded. Okay, they're called practice quizzes. And those don't end up in the assignment bucket either. So we have discussions and quizzes, which are part of this larger assignment bucket. But this is where it gets confusing. We have this third option, which we call assignments. Okay, this is why it's ambiguous, confusing, and I hate training this. I feel like every time I train it, it was a while before I figured out this diagram. And trust me, it was a hot mess when I was trying to say assignments and I said the same thing over and again, but it meant different things each time. But basically, we have this overall arching group, this overarching group that is anything that's graded is considered an assignment, whether it's a discussion, whether it's a quiz, whether it's an assignment, right? And it will show up in the grade book. We don't actually have to add these items to the grade book. When we create these items, they end up in the grade book. Our grade book is built for us automatically when we create these things. So that's what that overarching group assignments is. Whereas this right here, this assignment is something that the students actually submit. Okay, so it's something we create that maybe we have them write an essay, or maybe we have them complete a project or submit a picture of something, whatever it is we're having them do, that is the assignment itself. That's like an item assignment versus like this broader group of assignments, okay? Hopefully that's kind of clear with everybody. Normally this is where I check the classroom for any glazed over eyes to see if everybody's following me. I think we're okay, but let us know in a question and answer if there was something, if something's not clear about that. So coming back to Canvas, looking at this, if I click on this assignments area, this displays all of my overarching assignments. So if I click on this, and you'll notice this when I go here, notice that I have a quiz in here. That's what the little rocket ship means. And the reason the quiz is in here is because it's part of that overarching group of assignments. This item right here, the little icon that's got a paper with a pencil, that is an assignment, okay? So that's that individual assignment page. And then if I go to, if I go to discussions and I go and create a discussion, which I'm not gonna walk through it really slow here. I'm just gonna, call this a sample discussion. Notice though, I'm creating my discussion and you see the same tools here. Okay, same tools. And, but I can choose here to make it graded. And now that it's graded, if I go to assignments, you can see there's that sample discussion. And notice it's not green. Anybody have an idea as to why? I know you can't answer me, but it's because it's not published, okay? So since it's not published, it's not, even if we put this in our modules, students won't see it, okay? Because it's not published. So those are the three different types you can create, is assignments, discussions, and quizzes. I'm gonna briefly go over each one. I'm gonna give you a very brief overview of each one, okay? What I want you to do is basically identify which one you wanna learn about first, because this is where it's gonna require a little homework on your part. After I briefly go over each one of these, you'll have an opportunity to basically dive in and explore some of these for yourself. But I'm gonna give you a basic rundown on how it works, and then you can kind of choose which one you want to explore and see how it works. But first, let's take a look at the solar system planets assignment. So this is in my circle of assignments, this is my assignment, okay? So if I click on solar system planets, I'm going to click edit because it takes me to just the view at first. Okay, and now I have my title just like before. It looks like a page, right? It looks like a page in regards to how I create it. And it actually, this area functions very much like a page. But this is where I would explain, solar system planets. Maybe I want the students to identify every planet in the solar system. And then maybe I also want them to find 3 facts about each planet. This is just an introductory assignment. I don't know, just something to get them exploring. I'm coming up with this, off the cuff. But basically, I put the instructions here. But I could also put a video here. I could put images. Anything that I had on my home pages, I can also put right in here. Manal, you said that this part looks a lot like Moodle. That's good to hear. That's good to hear. I haven't used Moodle, so I couldn't confirm that, but that's good to hear. Cool. So now that I have my assignment kind of described, I have to come down to the settings. This is all the setup. So this is where I decide how I want my students to interact with it, because these are the instructions, but then how are they actually going to interact with it? Let's take a look. So down here below, I can say how many points it's worth. So I say it's worth 20 points. I can say which assignment group I want it to be a part of. The biggest impact of this assignment groups, the biggest change in this is assignment groups essentially are how you can weight certain grades. So if you want all of your quizzes to be worth 20% of the grade, you put all of your quizzes in one particular assignment group. And I'll show you how to do that in just a little bit. But basically that's what the assignment group does, is it allows me to categorize assignments based on their group, and then I can actually weight those groups so that my grading is weighted. Display point, that's really just a preference if the university has a preference, or you can choose. You can also do a not graded assignment here that basically doesn't put anything in the grade book. It's essentially, I mean, I'm not quite sure why you would use that. I would personally use a page. But if you do not grade it, it will have a due date. So I guess that's the difference there. But I'm going to just go ahead and keep it at points. You can choose whether or not the assignment counts toward the final grade. Submission type, this is an important piece you don't want to miss. So there's 4 different submission types. You can do no submission, which an example of a no submission assignment is when you have projects, maybe it's an oral assignment that they're going to give an oral presentation and maybe do a presentation in front of the class. Since the student's not actually submitting anything in Canvas, we would select a, sorry, I got distracted by our Q&A again. We would select no submission assignment for those presentations. Online, this is when a student's going to submit it in Canvas. This is what I'd recommend for most situations, even if it's a presentation, especially now where we're remote. If they're not doing it in front of the class, you could have them record it in a video, and then they could do that online. The text entry option, this enables the text editor. They basically get this exact tool. So they have all the freedoms of this tool if you select text entry. But the downside of the text entry is they have to do it in one shot, meaning I've heard some new Canvas users will select text entry when they want the student to write a 10-page essay. That's not really a good option because a 10-page essay is going to be probably written over time. And if you do text entry, they have to do it right then and submit it right then in Canvas. So text entry would probably be okay for me because it's just a short little assignment that they could do now. However, if it was anything that they had to save and come back to and have drafts and kind of work through the project over time, text entry is not a good option. That's for kind of quick responses. Website URL, good if they need to submit a website. Media recordings, that is good if we want them to submit a video. But you all have Studio. Students can also submit through Canvas Studio rather than these media recordings if you want to do that. Which actually, I've talked to some of you about Studio in the question and answer. That's part of the more advanced training, but one of the really cool things about it is students, if a student submits a video submission through Studio, as an instructor, you can leave comments in real time at certain points in the video. So if it's a 10-minute video and something at 3 minutes, you want to leave a comment there, you can actually do that in Studio when you're providing feedback to your students. So very cool and powerful functions. That Studio option just comes by default. It doesn't matter which one of these you select. And then finally, there's file upload. This is where you're going to just submit any file, whether you're doing graphic design, they're submitting Illustrator files, or whether you're doing, an essay, you're teaching English and they submit an essay in a Word document. You can choose to restrict the file upload type, and you just put that in. So if I only want PDFs, I can put in there, I only want PDFs, and it will only allow PDFs. Either way, when you grade, you'll be, depending on, Canvas doesn't accept all file types, but a lot of them can be viewed directly in Canvas when you're grading. So you can leave feedback directly in Canvas, whether it's a PDF, Word doc, Google Doc, Apple Pages, whatever it is, you can add feedback right on the page and kind of mark up their page when they submit it. And that's true with images as well. I don't think Adobe Creative Cloud stuff will show up, but like JPEGs and PNGs and stuff like that will show up in Canvas, and you can mark those up right in Canvas. So anyway, so this submission type is going to be an important piece. You want to make sure you're paying attention to that. Couple other options. We have group assignment. This is where we can say, hey, this is where students are working as a group. We didn't talk about groups today. They're fairly easy to set up, but I think that you guys, if you explore the guides a little bit, you can learn a little more about that. Peer reviews, same thing. You can set that up so that the peer reviews are automated, but there's a little more advanced feature. And then of course our assignments. This is where we set up our due date, and you can actually set multiple due dates. So I could choose to set a different due date for an individual student. Maybe if I had to make an exception for accessibility or disability reasons, or if maybe the student made an arrangement with me because they had a family vacation planned and I'm going to allow them to turn it in a week late or something. Whatever the reason, I can add additional due dates there for my students. So that's the basics of the assignment, and that's really all I'm going to show you here. You're welcome to explore that one in the work time. Let's take a look at the quizzes. This is the next one, and this is going to be, again, a whirlwind overview. But when we look at the solar system quiz here, oh, which, by the way, hold on, let me let me check something in one of your courses again. I'm going to create a sandbox course really quick. Sorry, ignore the man behind the, we'll put it in the demo courses. There we go. All right. I want to check something in your guys' account really quick before I move on, because the quizzes actually has two different tools. There's a new, there's a new quizzing tool, and I wanted to see what you guys had set up at your account level just to make sure. Yeah, so yours is a little different from mine. If you come in here and you hit add quiz, it will ask you, do you want to do it with classic quizzes or new quizzes? Go ahead and select new quizzes. There are certain instances why you may want to use classic quizzes, but when you're creating content for your courses, new quizzes is the way you want to go. Like if you're just if you're a professor building it at the professor level, you want to be conscious. If you're an admin, you may want to select something different, but for most of us in this group, you're going to select new quizzes and hit submit. This new quizzes tool, we're going to give it a name. So we'll just call this quiz number 1, you know, whatever, give it point values. And then the reason why we have to select new quizzes is this actually creates an external tool connection. You can't change this, it does it for you. But then once you hit save, it takes you into the new quizzes tool, which is really quite awesome. I'm not going to go into all the details of this tool again, just because of time. But you can build the quiz here by clicking this and adding questions. So you can do file upload questions, hotspot questions, multiple answer, multiple choice, ordering. This is a really awesome tool. I really wish that we could spend more time on it, but that's what the advanced session is for. So you can build the quiz, you can set up the different settings here. When you're ready to go back to Canvas, you hit return. And now I'm back in my Canvas course and I can see my quizzes here. Okay, I know I didn't cover that in very much detail. The big thing that you should get out of today's session when it comes to quizzes is that they're available. So you can kind of go in there and explore them a little bit more. Next, let's go ahead and look at discussions. So discussions, in a nutshell, a discussion, if you're not familiar with online discussions in an academic environment, hold on, I'm going to ask real quick. Did you guys have discussions in Moodle? Somebody tell me in the chat, one of the panelists. Okay, yeah, everybody's answering yes. Awesome, forums. Okay, perfect, cool. So I just totally blew up our question and answer, but that's okay. I wasn't gonna go through the process of explaining a discussion if you guys are already familiar with it. In Canvas, it's not that much different. There might be some different settings for sure, so you may wanna explore it. I would not necessarily assume that it's exactly the same, but in a nutshell, it's like a Facebook post, right? There's a stimulus where you say, hey, here's this main question or this video I want you to respond to, and then students respond to it. You can make it graded or ungraded. You can allow threaded replies or not. You can make it a group discussion, which what that means is you create smaller groups within your course. So they're groups of, 4 groups of 3 or whatever, and then they have their individual discussions within their group. So you can make it a group discussion. But a lot of the same options is, the points possible, display grades as, assignment groups, stuff like that. So it's pretty straightforward. I'm not going to go into a ton of detail here just because if that's something you guys are familiar with, awesome. We can roll with that. But from here, what we're going to do is, so peer review workshop function and discussions. Manya, you asked the question, peer review workshop function and discussions available. Peer reviews are not available in discussions. You can ask students to still review their peers, but it's not like an automated process like it is in assignments. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and turn the music on for the next 10 minutes or so and give you a chance to explore. What I'm going to encourage you to do is go into either assignments, discussions, or quizzes and create one of those and just poke around. See how it works. This is an opportunity for self-discovery. There are, in the resource documents, there are some guides on the different types of things you can create. Like what quiz types can you create? How do I create a discussion? How do I create an assignment? And you can go through the whole rabbit hole of going through those links and finding more information. In fact, if you're interested in the quizzes, it talks about every single quiz questions in the guide. But go through and explore one of those options. In the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and turn the music on again, answer the questions in the chat, and then we'll wrap things up here in just about 10 minutes. There's been a lot of question about external tools. I'm going to answer all of those questions shortly. Let's give people a little bit more time, so I don't want to interrupt them from what they're working on. But in about 3 or 4 minutes, I'll jump in and we'll talk about external tools. A number of people have asked about my drawing tool that I use to draw with like this and create spotlights like this. I use a tool called Mousetrack. I know a lot of you are on Macs and it does not work on Macs. So sorry guys, but I'm gonna go ahead and add it to the chat as a resource. Maybe it will be available on Macs eventually. I don't know, let's see. Yeah, it looks like it's not, yeah, it's just available for Windows right now. So I will add it to the chat and then we can add it to that resource document that Pauline's that she's all that stuff that she's curating, and we'll send it out. But yeah, unfortunately, it's not great for Macs.
What if it's all a dream this time? What if we're all asleep inside? What if it's all a one night stand? Wake up and you're alone again. But what if I sing sweetly? What if I love easy? What if I do it all right when it's all wrong? And what if I'm somebody? What if I got money? What if I give it all away to save my soul?
All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and talk about external tools really quick. So I didn't talk too much about this, but there's two pieces to this. One, there's apps that we need to add, and then the two, there's creating apps as assignments. So I'm going to kind of walk through both of these really quickly. First, the apps. So down here in settings in my courses right here, if I click on settings, actually, I'm going to do this from your account. So if I click on settings and go to apps, you'll notice that your institution, if I click on installed, this was a brand new course that I just created just now. So I obviously have not installed any apps, but your institution, CSUF, has already added some apps from the account level. So it looks like Proctorio is used, iClicker Sync. I'm not familiar with all these apps, by the way, but basically these are apps that integrate with Canvas, things that they'll work different ways in Canvas. And a lot of times people will ask me, you know, Kyle, what do the apps do? Or Kyle, how do I use the apps? And that's a really difficult question to answer because apps in Canvas are a lot like apps on your phone. And there's tons of different apps on your phone. So if I were to ask you, what do the apps on your phone do? You'd have to ask, well, what app are you talking about? Because some apps are for finances, some apps are for games, some apps are for, some apps are for productivity, some apps are for managing the device easier, you know, whatever you want to say. There are all these different kind of apps out there, and they do different things. So there's not one answer to that question, what do the apps do? And Canvas, it really, I mean, there is the answer of they all support Canvas in that they provide new ways to engage with students. That's the answer. But what the new ways are, that really just depends on the app. Now, like I just mentioned, the institution has provided, you know, CSUF has provided you with apps already here, and there may be more apps to come, just an FYI. However, you can add apps to your individual courses if you want as well. So if I click on all over here, I can search for apps. Like a lot of you have been talking about, what is that one? VoiceThread. VoiceThread, okay. So apparently they do have an app. I don't know how it works. I've never used VoiceThread before, but I would just come in here and hit add app. It looks like it requires a consumer key and a shared secret. This does happen with some apps. What that means is it probably requires either a license and this could be added at the admin level. That's something that your admins would need to discuss. But basically you have to purchase their product, and it doesn't always mean you have to purchase it. For example, Google requires a consumer key and a shared secret, but you just have to reach out to, or with Google here, let me show you in my course. If I go to settings and look at Google, when I add the Google app, it asks me for it as well. But with Google, you just click on this link and it provides you with a secret key and it provides you with that because Google is free to use. So my point here is just because it requires a consumer key doesn't mean that it costs money. But what it does mean is you have to find out from the company. It looks like register at voicethread.com and contact the company, request your consumer key. So it gives more details there. If I go back to the App Center, so I can search for all sorts of different apps and add them to my course. Now, what they do in my course can vary quite a lot. In fact, one of the apps that a lot of people really enjoy is this course menu. Some people ask, hey, can I customize this course menu? And the answer is not by default in Canvas, but there is a cool app that is called Redirect. And you can add it as many times as you want. So if I click on this, I can go ahead and hit add app. Say I have an online textbook and I want to show within my course navigation. And we'll do, yeah, force open a new tab. And maybe my online textbook is this page. You know, it's really not, but we'll just say it is. Then I paste this in, that link. Gotta make sure the link's actually right. And then hit add app. And now if I refresh my page, here's it says redirect tool. Actually, I wanna go, and I need to configure this one. View app configurations here. I need to edit it because I don't want it to say redirect. I want it to say, you know, whoops. I want it to say textbook. And now if I refresh, you can see down here at the bottom, I have a new link in my course menu that says textbook. Okay. And that redirect one can be added as many times as you like. So you can kind of control those sorts of things. Anyway, so that's how we get the apps added, but they do different things within Canvas. VoiceThread or other apps, you can actually, if I come to my assignments, some of you found this and you were asking questions about this, but if I go to my solar system planets assignment, we're going to edit it. As my submission type, I can select external tool. And now when I click find, it shows me the available apps that are listed. And I have Google Drive. If you had VoiceThread added as an app to your course, because you have to add it as an app first, then it would show up here and you could select that assignment type and it would perform whatever integration it is intended to perform. The reason I say whatever integration, I haven't used VoiceThread. I don't know what that integration looks like. I don't even know if it can be added as an assignment. My guess is that it can. A lot of times if you reach out to the app providers, they are far more help than I will be from my Canvas side because there's so many apps, I'm just not familiar with them all. It looks like Kate said that you have a subscription to VoiceThread. So as long as you get those consumer keys, you can probably get added to your account. And then from there, you probably could use VoiceThread assignments. I will tell you this, that the partners of Canvas, meaning those who create the apps for Canvas, they generally have a lot of support. So I'm going to kind of click out of this, but that was my Google assignment. I'm not going to follow through with it, but we'll just search VoiceThread with Canvas. And I'm just doing a Google search. So here's from VoiceThread itself, their website, and it tells you how to add VoiceThread, and it has so your vendors, my point is that your vendors, they're very familiar with Canvas. They probably know how to use it. And if you reach out to them, they can provide you with much more information on how to actually integrate those tools. But they can be integrated. So they do integrate in other ways though, like in the rich content editor right here, if you click on this plug, it will actually show you more apps. And if VoiceThread is here, there might be another function that you could use VoiceThread for. My point is that, you know, I don't know what all the apps do. And I've said this a few times, but I'm not sure what all the apps do. They do different things depending on their function, and you kind of want to play with that. So, all right. Let's see, we have someone who can answer these questions. Oh, sorry, I haven't been watching the chat. So yeah, Matt Ahola, I might be pronouncing your name incorrectly. I apologize for that, but let's go ahead and promote him to panelist. And Matt, we just have a few more minutes. So if it's only 2 to 3 minutes, maybe you can explain this or we can send out a document. He's muted, just a second.
Hey guys, this is Matt. You want to send me the unanswered ones and I can just kind of rattle through them if I know the answer? I know there was a question about Secure Proctor. Proctorio is installed on the site. Nursing was already using that. I don't know if Secure Proctor is a built-in thing that just clicks on or if it's like an external company. If it's an external company, then we have a request process for getting new integrations added. You want to email the project team and say, I'm interested in getting Secure Proctor installed on Canvas. And then there's a approval process and we'll get back to you with that.
Perfect. Cool. So it sounds like you can send your, Matt, I don't know if, as a panelist, you should be able to send your email address through the chat now. I don't know, or if you have another way of having people contact you, you can kind of choose that. But it sounds like Matt can help answer some of your questions in regards to what apps are available and kind of what there is to add.
Yeah, so thread.
Was that Matt?
So for VoiceThread, we should have new keys in by the end of the day or tomorrow, and it's the deep link VoiceThread integration. So you'll just get prompted when you add a VoiceThread to log in one time, and that may even be automatic. I can't remember. And then once you've done that, you can just use all the features of the VoiceThread integration.
Perfect. Cool. Thank you, Matt. So I think to sum that up, basically, I mean, there is a lot of opportunity to use other tools. It's just a matter of kind of collaborating within your organization and kind of figuring out what tools are already available. Because I know, like VoiceThread, Matt was saying they're already working on getting you that. So I mean, there's some of these that are still in the pipeline. So it's a little bit of, you know, we're implementing Canvas and we're still figuring some of this stuff out. But anyway, with that said, I think we're going to wrap things up now because I want to be able to let those who jump off right at noon. I want to give those who want to do that the flexibility to do that. So we're going to wrap things up. I'm going to stick around for maybe 5 minutes or so, 5 or 10 minutes to answer any questions. So if your questions didn't get answered, don't stress. Let's wrap things up. I have a survey that I would love for you guys to take. Now there's 2 surveys. I apologize for this, but there's this survey that is my survey. If you would go on there and let me know how I did. And it's anonymous. And to be quite frank, you know, we know we're all facing a new challenge with virtual training. So we'd love to get your feedback on that. If you felt like there was something we could have done better, we're growing through this process as well as everybody else, I'm sure. But if there were things that you thought were great, please let us know. And then when you leave the Zoom room, you will be prompted to do another survey. This is a separate survey. Both surveys are very short. They should only take you 3 minutes at most, but it goes a long way. The second survey is for your for CSUF, so you'll want to fill that one out as well. Now, with that, we've gone through the content. We've gotten through what I had to share today, so I don't have a ton more to share, but before I just excuse everybody, I want to make sure couple of things. I want to make sure you know about the resource document and that everyone has it because this will be helpful as you go forward. And then I also just want to invite, I don't know if any of our other panelists or any of our administration has anything to share at this point, just as reminders, kind of last minute notes, if we need to kind of throw that in. And there may not be anything, but if there is anything, I'm going to kind of open it up to them. Oh, some people want to see the link to the survey again, but here we go. Type the survey into the Q&A. Here, I'll type it into this answer.
Hey all, I just wanted to mention I was going to have Kyle mention really quick about the comments and a template. So if you could maybe really quickly just kind of share what that is.
Yes, I'm glad you brought that up. I apologize, Erica. I kind of spaced it on that.
No way, you covered quite a bit.
So comments. So there was a question way back during our session that somebody asked, hey, if I create something here that I like, how can I share it to myself? And the easy answer is comments. That's the best way to go. Okay, so let me just show you really quickly. I'm going to show you kind of conceptually. Again, I think it's important you understand conceptually how it works. Basically, with Commons, if we have 2 courses, so here's one course, you know, and it can be my course or it could even be, you know, one of my peers' courses. So I have 2 different courses here. And then here's Commons. Basically how Commons works is if I have a piece of content, I can share it to Commons and then it lives there kind of like Google Drive or Dropbox. And then from there, me or anyone else that I share it with can take that content and push it then into their course. Now, the cool part about this is each one of these links is independent. It's not, it doesn't stay linked. In other words, let's say this person, they get that piece of content and they're like, you know what, I want to change it so that it looks like, you know, so that it looks like a bigger circle. I don't know. So they change the content a little bit. They can do that and it doesn't impact this version in Commons, and it doesn't impact the original version in the course, but they still stay somewhat connected, because this person, if they decide to make a change so that now, you know, it's a triangle instead, they could change their content, push the changes up to Commons, and then at any point, this person could choose to update their version so that it matches what's in Commons. So it kind of keeps that link. And that's kind of how Commons works. But the functionality of it, let's go back to Canvas and kind of show you how it actually works in Canvas. If I'm in and you can share almost anything in Canvas to Commons, but we'll just go to my modules and we'll share a module. Oh, I don't have Commons in this account, so I'm gonna have to do it from this account. Cool. So I'll go ahead and go to, I think I created a quiz in here, but we'll just go to pages. Sorry, this is not the one I was working in, and so now I'm all, oh, I'm surprised I'm not finding pages. Maybe it's because maybe it got pushed out with all these other tools. Oh, I'm not in my course. I'm sorry. I'm having end of training brain cramps. So if I want to share something to Commons, so let's say I create a home page that's just phenomenal and I love it and I want to share it to Commons. I'm not actually going to create a home page, but this is our home page. What I can do is I can click these three dots right up here and I can click that share to Commons. There's this share to Commons link, okay? And this is found everywhere. So if I'm in modules, you know, if I go to modules, you'll see the same thing. If I add a module, just call it module 1, I can do the same thing. Click the three dots and then here's share to Commons, okay? If I click share to Commons, it brings me into Commons. I'm gonna go ahead and authorize that access. And then from here, I can come in here and say, okay, who do I want to share it with? Is it only me, or do I want to share it with everybody at CSUF? I can kind of choose, or I could even share it with everybody who uses Canvas. I'm not actually going to share this because it's garbage, but I mean, if I share it with me, I can select only me, and then I can choose what type of license I'm using. I have to provide a title, a description, you know, so I provide my own description there. I have to provide an image. It gives you suggestions though, so you don't have to go find an image. You can actually just search, you know, maybe it's something about computers. You could look for computer, something like that. You can designate the grade level so that, you know, it's found by the proper and appropriate people. And then you hit share. And I'm just sharing this with just me, so nobody else is going to see this. But from there, now that it's shared in Commons, to access Commons, you can always access it from your global navigation, this little icon over here. So you click Commons. And from Commons, I can choose to explore and find any content that I want. So these documents that people shared, there's these different featured documents, these assignments, modules, courses, all these different things that people have created. Now, this workspace, the Commons area, is a lot like YouTube. Okay, YouTube, there's a lot of really great videos on YouTube, but there's also a lot of really like garbagey videos on YouTube that are like not built very well. You'll find the same thing here, but what you can do is you can rate by the most favorited, and usually the things that have a lot more favorites, they're going to be a lot better as far as the structure. Okay, so you can go and pull some of this stuff and put it in your own courses if you'd like. So that's what I recommend, is using this most favorited search. If you're looking for your own content, if you go to shared, here's the module 1 that I shared. I can click on that, and then from here I hit import, and now I can import it into my course. I'm not in any courses right now, but you'd select the course, hit import, or you can download it and then import it into your course that way. So there's different options. And that's not the only way to share content from course to course to course, but that is probably the most effective way and the easiest way to share it. So that's the way that I always recommend. Now, Erica, you said talk about Commons, and then there's one more thing, right? I can't remember what it was.
There we go. Sorry. It was
Okay.
that there is a CSUF template, I believe, in there.
Oh.
Don't get that through the comments too?
Is it, so is there a template in it? Okay,
I'm
let's
not
take a
sure
look.
where it is, but I know that the
Let's-
idea template.
Yeah, so we'll search. We'll see if we can filter it. So I can filter by your institution. I can come in here and say, hey, I only want to find CSU.
Cool. Oh, Matt says they haven't published it there yet.
Oh, so
Just talk about the idea of a template, Kyle.
yeah. Well, we can go, if Matt says you haven't published it yet, but if you don't mind, Matt, I could come look it up here. Do you want me to just show it real quick? Yeah, I gotta probably unmute Matt.
I just so we know what it is.
Gosh, I'm clicking unmute on Matt, but it's not unmuting him.
Don't take it personal, Matt.
What's the name here? I'm just gonna search template and see if we can find it. So, course with templates, test course. Do you know if here's a master template. Now this may not be the actual template, okay? Because I'm having a hard time unmuting Matt. But the idea is you can pull in a template.
I'll put it in the chat so you can pull it up.
Oh, perfect. Sorry, we're going over, guys. And if anybody's got a meeting, I understand if you got to jump out, but I think this is valuable. So, no, I didn't copy the right one. Oh, you can't copy stuff out of the chat. You guys are right. So I'll just have to plug in the number there. 219. Oh, I'm in the one. Yeah, 2918. Yeah, this is it. So, anyway, I'm going to go ahead and mute you again, Erica, because your feedback's coming through. But anyway, so with this template, this is going to be something that's available to give you a starting place to create your content. So if you go to modules, there's already a module structure here. And there's also, this is the coolest part about it, there's a set of icons, banners, and buttons in here. So you can use all of these little icons and all of these little banners and all of these little buttons, which actually, that's kind of cool. There's an accessibility score in there. That's cool. What is this that's running that accessibility score? Is that an app you guys have? Because I haven't seen that before. But anyway, there's all these icons, buttons, and banners that are available for you to use in your course that come with the course. So they come with the template, and you could put this into any course, or you could start a new course from scratch. And if you don't, this is going to be in Commons where you can come and get it. But, and you don't have to use it. If you don't like this, it's up to you, but it does enable you to create content quickly. And the other thing is these templates have been created with accessibility in mind. So if you have a concern with accessibility, if you pull this template in and then just kind of update the content in the template, generally speaking, your accessibility standards, you're going to be up to par because the template was created with that in mind. So cool. So that's actually, if I think, Erica, does that, I know that was super brief, but does that kind of cover what?
Yeah, I wanted to share that if just having a complete blank slate kind of overwhelms you, that there is a template that you can kind of start from and modify.
Definitely. Definitely. You kind of have that option available for you. So, all right. With that said, like I said before, I think I've got everything wrapped up. If you didn't get a chance to do my survey before, I'm going to throw it up here one more time. As you jump out of the Zoom room, you'll have a chance to do another survey. But I really appreciate everything you guys, staying on with me, especially a few extra minutes. I'm going to stick around. Let me see what my calendar will allow. Oh yeah, I'm okay to stick around for just a little bit longer if you guys need me to. And answer any questions, but otherwise I'm finished. So unless the administration has anything that they want to jump in there and share, yeah, I'm good to go. Okay, cool. Well, then I'm going to go ahead and start answering questions. Those of you that need to drop off, I understand. And then in the meantime, I'm going to just answer the questions that are in the chat. Okay, let's see.